remember this podcast had dignity? I don't, but it's fun to think about, isn't it?
It was a dignified back when Lilac did it all by herself and didn't have us tainting the good reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, she would really like if Andrew took her to Suplex City.
Hey everyone, Spaceman Hardy here. Before we get into the episode itself, I just wanted to stop and thank you for sticking with us for over 5 years and 200 episodes. None of us ever thought we'd get this far, and it's because of guys like you that we keep doing what we do. We know the world is a pretty crazy place right now, even going so far as to directly impact the production of the very dubs we cover. We don't really know how this is all going to end, but in the meantime, we at Dub Talk are going to do our utmost to keep all of you informed, entertained, and encouraged throughout it all. On behalf of Stephanie, Megan, Noah Clue, Amandul, Jet, Roots of Justice, Zenith, Gigi, Jamal, Andrew, Lack, and myself, as well as our editors Jackson and Margot. Stay safe, stay at home, wash your hands, and let us continue to entertain you for another 5 years and 200 episodes to come. As always, otaku on, my friends.
All right, inmates, listen up and listen good, because I'm only gonna say this once. While you are staying here at the Dub Talk Penitentiary, we have a few rules for you Flow-Lifes to follow. These rules are as such. The Dub Talk Penitentiary is full of foul language and explicit content that is inappropriate for some audiences, so no inmates currently attending here will go exposing such content to younger listeners. 2. The Dub Talk Penitentiary is full of spoilers for any and all anime, so no inmates will go blurting them out to people who haven't finished the series yet. And 3. The opinions of the warden, the guards, and all of the staff of the Dub Talk Penitentiary will vary widely, so no inmates will question the validity of said opinions. Failure to obey these rules will result in extreme, severe, and borderline inhumane punishment. Now, on your feet, maggots. Line up and form a row, because it's time for us to take you all to school.
All right, you inmates, up and at 'em, on your feet. Get to it.
God damn.
Get to it right now.
Kill me now. Please.
Okay.
Please, sir. Please.
You
My
listen
ass hurts
here,
so
maggot.
bad. Ow, God. It hurts.
I get
Listen
you.
here, maggots. When I call your name, I want to hear a roll call. Is that understood?
Jelly donut.
Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
All right. Inmate Noah,
Please don't.
are you
step-
present?
Don't step on me again. My ass can't take it anymore.
Inmate Jamal, are you present and accounted for?
I'm locked up. They won't let me out. They won't let me out.
Can it with the theatrics.
Yes, sir.
Inmate Jet, are you present and accounted for?
On me, oh nigga.
Don't tip me or I'll do it. Okay. Did I say you could laugh? Did I?
It's hard not to, sir.
And what's that I smell? I smell fresh meat. You, in the pug pajamas. You must be the new guy. What's your name, new guy?
I'm Roots of Justice, Hardy. This isn't the hotel I signed up for. Where are we?
Oh, you're in the Dub Talk Penitentiary, and I'm your warden, Spaceman Hardy. And what I say goes. You understand that, inmates?
Yes, sir.
So do you all know why you're here this evening?
No, you just kind
No?
of
Sir, no,
showed up
sir.
on Skype, and here I am.
Well, I'm about to tell you. You are in here for various crimes as sabotaging sensitive subjects, various inappropriate behavior, and for overall having a pretty shitty attitude. And so, to make up for your crimes, tonight you are going to assist me in reviewing the English dub of the 2015 summer comedy Prison School.
Wait,
Does anyone have a problem with that?
that's punishment?
Well, I mean, we're going to be reviewing a show about 5 horny boys, so I've assembled a team of 5 horny boys to cover
Okay,
it.
fair.
Wait, what's Andrew?
I think the greatest
That's right,
punishment for
right,
Andrew
it's-
is not being on this episode.
That's right. Yeah, Andrew. Inmate Andrew was allowed. Inmate Andrew was out for good behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I can't even play that straight. He goes for bad behavior. He's terrible. All the
I'm
time.
pretty sure the only reason he's out is because he got in good with the CEO. And,
Yeah.
once you get in good with the boss, you can just do whatever you want.
He's
Right.
actually-
He's been
he's
sleeping with
actually-
the warden.
He's actually guilty of crimes so bad that he's in solitary.
So instead of sleeping with the boss, he's sleeping with the fishes then.
But anyways, so you might ask, what is Prison School? Well, you might ask.
Well,
Sir, I don't know the synopsis, sir.
Well, I'll tell you then. Plot summary from A&N says, there was a time when the Hachimitsu Private Academy was a revered and elite all-girls boarding school on the outskirts of Tokyo, but a recent policy revision is allowing boys into the student body. On his first day, Kiyoshi Fujino discovers that he's one of only 5 boys enrolled at the school. Completely overwhelmed by the thousands of girls on campus, the few boys find that their situation is less than ideal. Basically, the too long dude and read version, the boys try to peek on the girls in the showers, and they get locked in a literal prison at the school campus, where they are subjected to torture and various demeaning acts by the underground student council. So, what do we have to say, inmates?
Prison School is a very odd show. One that I was actually familiar with before the anime even started. I was reading the manga back when I still rode the high seas. So, yeah.
Yar har fiddly.
Hey, you watch it or I'll put you in for 5 more days because of piracy.
I'm
Indeed.
sorry, I won't do it anymore. Well, I mean, I stopped doing it, but I won't do it again.
All right. So, with that in mind, inmates, are we ready to start this thing off proper?
yeah, let's
Now,
do
is there
it.
anything special about this particular episode?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything special about this particular episode?
Oh, yes. It was one of our lost episodes because we had some technical difficulties. We actually tried to record this 5 years ago with almost the same group, but Jamal is stepping in for Zenith this time. We tried to record this 5 years ago, back when it was brand new as a impressions episode, when we were still doing that kind. And unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, and the episode ended up lost. And for our 200th episode, we decided we would bring it back. That's right. Dub Talk is down 200 episodes.
Woo!
Yep.
Boy, that's
5
terrifying.
years, 200 episodes. Can you believe it? And so tonight we are...
And in all that time, they still haven't learned to lock up the liquor cabinet in the Dub Talk studios.
No, they have not.
Wait, there's a lock?
You would think they'd learn by now, but let me just tell you guys, if you're listening, Scotch tape and plywood does not a thirsty boy keep out of the liquor cabinet.
There's a lock?
Not anymore.
There was a lock, Jamal. I found bolt cutters, and that ended that.
I just went in there and took the liquor, so.
All right.
See, you were smart.
So-
You went in after the raid, and you just got the good stuff afterwards.
So let's drop the act. Yeah, this is our 200th episode, and we're coming together once again to re-record this lost episode. And yeah, this time we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it where everything's going to come out right, and you guys are going to be in for a treat. So, Prison School. Let's start off with our ADR director and our scriptwriters.
But we're not doing predictions this time?
Unless you can magically remember what you predicted last time.
I gotta admit, in preparation for this episode, I went back and tried to find my notes from that original recording from 5 years ago. And I have notes from, like, way long ago, from, like, the Dramatical Murder episode and back to that far. But I could not find the prison school notes. Those also have been lost to time.
Mm-hmm. I probably did make predictions for this. I just couldn't, for the life of me, remember what they are.
Did you ever make them down at the fandom post? Did you ever write?
I probably did, but that would require a lot of scouring, and I presume we don't have time for that. So
I feel like
Ain't
that
nobody
might
got
have
time for
actually
that.
been pre-fandom posts. That may have been back in the Mania days.
No, Fandom Post was still around back then. I've been using Fandom Post ever since like 2011. So.
I'll be honest. When this show first came out, I didn't expect it to get a dub, but here we are.
I expected the show to get a dub. I remember specifically thinking I wanted Funimation to get this show, and I guess that was a bit of a double-edged sword in hindsight.
I saw 4 episodes of this in the sub. I was like, wait, this is getting dubbed?
Yeah, yeah. It was a surprise because this was, I think, the third round of simuldubs that had come out. The first round was just Psychopaths 2 and Laughing Under the Clouds. The second round had a bunch of different shows, but they Double Talk focused mainly on Assassination Classroom, Tokyo Ghoul, Route A, and Death Parade. And this was the third round, I believe, where it was Gangsta and Sky Wizards Academy, and then this show. And that was way back in 2015. So it's kind of a landmark. And we tried to record this originally when it was new, and that didn't happen. So now we're coming back to settle the score. It's come full circle once again. And let's do this.
Yes.
Let's record Prison School. Finally, after 5 years, we're going to do it right this time. Okay.
Take us on,
All right.
Headmaster Hardy.
All right. So for our ADR director and our script writers, ADR director is Sonny Strait. He has directed shows such as Rage of Bahamut Genesis and Servamp. Our script writers are Jamie Markey and Tyson Reinhardt. Markey has directed shows such as Panty and Stocking and Spice and Wolf, and Tyson Reinhardt has directed shows written for shows such as 18 If and Did You Know There's a Girl Online? So,
why did that would be that show existed?
let's get the.
Wait.
Let's
you hear
get
that?
the.
You guys hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of Megan just howling at the moon at the mere mention of that, smashing the nearby mirror and looking straight into the camera going, "Why you betray me, Hardy? Why?"
And the mere mention
Anyway,
of Netoge makes my soul leave my body.
Fitting.
Honestly, after watching Hana in this show, I'm kind of desensitized to Netoge, so...
Anyways, do we want to go ahead and get the elephant out of the room? Because I know that this part right here is going to be a little bit controversial.
Sure.
Yeah. Inmate Jet, do you want to start us off?
Well, sure. So this dub came out around the early days of Funimation Simuldub era, and of course, as we mentioned, it was one of the earlier projects Sonny Strait worked on. Back when they put him in the director's chair for the first time in several years, because he did do some stuff like way back when in the early 2000s. But with all that in mind, I remember that I was kind of hard on it until Rage of Bahamut, and then it wasn't too big on how we handled the show back then. But revisiting the dub now, I think I was maybe a little rough on him. I take serious issue with how one character in particular was directed to sound. For the most part, the vocal direction for this show is pretty spot on. Everyone is pretty decently casted. And they all sound generally very dramatic and over the top as is fitting the source material. So on that end, I don't have any complaints. What kind of dates and stuff for me, and by extension, kind of ruins it, is in the script. Now, I'll let everyone else bring up the elephant in the room. We all know the elephant in the room left a pretty giant turd, but they were pretty sensible about this, and they eventually got rid of the elephant and the giant turd. The problem, though, is that even though the giant turd is gone, the smell was always kind of there to begin with. And, okay, I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but to get at what I mean, I feel like I kind of have to explain what the actual joke is with this show. While this show is very stupid and unapologetically stupid, Most of the actual humor here comes from the fact that no matter how violent the slapstick is or how ridiculously silly any given situation gets, it is always treated 100% seriously in universe and the characters react to it that way. And I'd say that maybe 70% of the time the adaptive script gets that across pretty well and rolls with the material. But then the other 30% of the time, it's either cracking up how crude the dialogue can be or adding in extra sex puns and pop culture references. And while I'm pretty okay with the crude factor getting ramped up a bit, since I mean it's not like it wouldn't mess with the material, I feel like Jamie and Tyson didn't have a really good sense of where it worked and where it didn't. It's funny that across nearly every character kind of downgrades the overall joke a little bit. And then the problem with the extra sex part and the pop culture references are kind of self-explanatory, since again, the joke here kind of generally hinges on the characters reacting to everything dead seriously. And so when you have some of the characters, and one character in particular doing that sort of thing almost nonstop, it kind of breaks the flow. And it kind of dates it up a little bit overall. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I didn't think that Jamie and Tyson quite got what the show was going for. I mean, to be fair, it's easy to see why they wouldn't, because from the outset, it looks like this isn't really aiming to be anything more than a silly fan service show. I mean, and it is at least partially aiming for that, because the story behind how the manga got started is kind of amusing. Because before doing this manga, the author had originally done some manga about like a jazz musician who sold his soul. But apparently that didn't do well, and his editor suggested he do something more mainstream like fan service. So this was effectively him going, "You want fan service? I'll give you fan service," and that's how we got this show.
Yeah,
And we got it.
like it's really funny about that story because Me and the Devil Blues, the manga Jed had mentioned from this author, it actually won like Hugo Awards, if I recall correctly. Like, it was very critically acclaimed, but in Japan it just didn't particularly sell very well because it's like it is deeply rooted in the sort of folklore of the American South, and that's sort of, I don't know if that's a thing that Japan would really get behind. I mean, I've read the manga, it's really good. But I just love that the author's response to, "Oh yeah, just make another series with more fan service." And I can just hear him, the author, just being like, "You want fan service? You want fan service? I'll give you fan service.
And
I'll give you all the fan service."
Distant world of Japan. In the distant world of Japan, another finger of the monkey paw curled.
So I feel like the really amazing part of this entire thing is that you can never really tell which stuff is the author's actual fetishes and which stuff is just him trolling with you.
I think the answer to all of that is yes.
Okay, anyway, I think I'm done here.
Okay, Roots, what are your thoughts on the dub?
Yeah, so I mean,
of the director and script.
Right. I largely agree with Jed on this one. In terms of the direction, it was very solidly cast. Performances were actually really great. And for the most part, the script writing actually worked to the show's favor in a bit of the more abstract slapstick kind of way. I feel like the adapted script writing played on the sort of cartoonish aspect of the show, and that, to an extent, that worked in a different way than the Japanese version, which played everything completely straight and serious. That said, that line, which I don't think we're actually going to repeat, but you know exactly which one I'm talking about. I disagree with its use, mainly because, number one, it dates the show a little more than I feel like it was meant to. Just because, it's what that line was referencing is still a little bit of a thing today, but it's not nearly the kind of, it is within our lexicon as it was in 2015. And coming back and revisiting the show, knowing that it was there and quickly replaced within, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks that line was taken out. But,
It's like, yep. But I think they eventually replaced it with something that was close enough to what the original line was to begin with.
yeah, I think the line was switched to something about being a hipster, which still that's a word I have not heard used since 2015. But at the same time, like that's a little bit of a. I feel like that's a little bit of a better dating than the previous line, because this feels a little more like a Steins Gate.
I think it was actually replaced by, don't you know you're not supposed to talk about your upperclassmen like that? I think the hipster joke was in Nakopara.
Okay. I couldn't remember exactly which episode it came in, because Funimation does have the simulcast version of the episodes available. And...
Yeah, it's like, I remember. I mean, I don't remember the exact episode. I just remember the exact scene.
Yeah,
it was episode 6.
It's like, it was the scene where Anzu and Chiyo were talking, or when they first met.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had watched both. The line is gone. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, Inmate Jamal, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so pretty much Prison School is a dark comedy, if you will. I'm not gonna say black comedy. It's a dark comedy. It's class with crass. It's basically if you put Superbad, Assassination Classroom, and The Shawshank Redemption combined. The casting was pretty stellar. You could definitely tell they kind of. Well, not out of the box with the casting, but out of the box with how the actors had to portray the characters, which kind of leads into the script writing, because, it's a show with no subtleties whatsoever. Yeah, they definitely went out of the box with the writing. I mean, yeah, sounds one lie, but thinking back on it, I watched it 2 times over the last week. Given the setting and the scene that happened in, I see the context, but you could have picked a better wording for it, Like, I mean, that was not cool. As a matter of fact, I watched the episode in the simuldub that day, and then the next day I heard about this controversy. I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, something happened in this episode. I'm like, wait, what happened? I watched the episode. Everything was fine. And to someone who doesn't understand that context, like, for reference, just type the 7th letter of the alphabet twice. For anybody who doesn't understand that context, to someone who's apathetic like me, like, I wouldn't get it right away. And even to this day, I kind of understand what it is, but it still doesn't make any sense to me. But even so, you kind of gotta pick your words wisely. You can only do so much with script adaptation. But other than that, I think everything really went out of the box, because I enjoy like some of the crude humor the show provides, especially when JC Staff was at the peak of this animation. Like, let's see, we got dick build platypuses, fat fuck, I don't give a fly, fuck shit nuts, fuck your sorries, but you get my point. It really fits for what the characters call for what the show calls for, definitely. And that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, that's what I appreciated most about the adaptive script writing, was the creative profanity.
It's like I was back in high school again.
That was kind of hit or miss for me personally. It depended on which characters were saying it.
I think we can agree that there's one character that took the cake for profanities the most throughout the entire show. And whether or not you like them or not, it's kind of depends on whether you can get down with how many variations of swear words, of referring to someone who craps their pants, and how many other variations of that you can get. And the thing to keep in mind about this dub is that this was a simul-dub, so this wasn't the kind of project where they had a long gestation period to figure out ways to adapt the script. They could have gone the more straightforward route and just adapted the original subs into something that was, more or less equivalent to the Japanese, and that goes for the casting as well. And we'll get to the one character. Oh, Lord.
Can I interject something you said there about the script writing? Because I know one of the actresses, she was explaining about the simuldub process. They said that they kind of used this to like gauge audience reactions at times. So depending on that, kind of determines like how things change for the final whole video release. So
it is kind of interesting looking back that while that one line was changed, there were a lot of similar references. There were a lot of similar pop culture references that were still in the final product somehow.
Oh, definitely.
So.
Like one of my favorite. I'll just pick one favorite pop culture reference as a microcosm of this entire dub. So the main character, Kiyoshi, is fantasizing about getting together with his crush, Chiyo. And he says, and I quote, "Look out, Jayonce, we're coming for that top spot."
I knew that was coming.
Yep, I remember that one from when I saw it at the time when I kind of hated it then, and I still think it really shouldn't have been there now.
For those of you kids not in the know, that is a reference to Jay-Z, the rapper, and famous pop singer Beyonce, who are indeed a couple. So just in case you needed context for that.
It still makes more sense than the Arthur Fonzarelli reference.
Yeah, that one's up too.
Well, Shego kind of does look like a gangster with that hairstyle, so...
Yeah.
I mean,
but I highly doubt that Anzu has ever watched Happy Days.
Hey, I've watched Happy Days.
I don't know.
Okay,
I, to my understanding, that was actually pretty successful in Japan. But that maybe not for this generation, but... the point being is that, if you're down for the adaptive script versus the original Japanese, because I know a lot of people cry foul when anything is changed in English that doesn't match one for one to the Japanese, and this goes with Sunny's directing as well. The thing is that this is a show about high schoolers in prison in their school. Now, I don't know about what your high school experience was like, but I don't feel like that's really equivalent to anything that any of us had to go through. I mean, I didn't wear prison wear. I didn't get locked in a jail. I didn't have to do menial labor at behest of big-bosomed, high-heel-wearing, crap-wielding psycho bitch.
That's just the author's fascistic version of internal suspension. That's what it is.
Even then, that seems a little extreme. But then again, I didn't go to Japan, so maybe the Japanese school system is a little more extreme than we're used to in America.
But you do have cram schools.
That they do. So with that being said, I like this dub. I like that it does not play totally straight. Like it's definitely funnier than the Japanese. And okay. to me personally, to my one self versus the 7-8 billion people out there, I thought it was funny. And I'm sure there's some people who disagree with that because it may have tried too hard to go for the dark comedy thing. So I guess we'll discuss when we get to the characters about whether or not that really works overall, but would I recommend this? Like, just to cut to the chase here, I would recommend this. I'm not sure if it would stand up to repeat watchings once you've heard all the best material, but I do recommend it at least once, and I don't regret watching it a second time for this recording.
All right. Well, to keep things rolling, I'm just going to be real brief and say, in general, I like this dub. It does have some problems with the script. And one particular casting choice was questionable, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, I had a fun time with it, watching it for a second time. And watching it uncensored now is a whole nother experience into itself. Because most people don't know this, but when it would aired in the simuldub, a lot of the profanity was actually censored. It was bleeped for double talk. But now that it's like in full glory, it's just some of these lines are just jaw dropping. Like, oh my god, you can definitely tell that this was written by the same person who was panting and stocking. So, yeah. At least there was no mention of smegma, right, Jamal?
Fuck you.
Moving on to our first group of characters, we've got a couple of good girl characters. And we've got the principal of the school. So our first character is Chiyo. She is the younger sister of the head of the underground
Student council.
Student council, right? Yeah. She is the main character, Kiyoshi's love interest. She loves sumo, and she thinks that anyone who likes sumo can't be all bad. So she's always willing to kind of give Kiyoshi a little bit of slack when he's not always acting that great. Our second character is Anzu. She is a upperclassman of the boys. She is originally sent to set Shingo up as sort of a mole, but she eventually switches sides and helps the boys out near the end, and she becomes Shingo's love interest later on. And finally, we have the chairman of the academy.
You got to describe him in his speech pattern.
Yes, and there's one thing that the chairman loves more than anything else. Butts.
Booty.
No.
Ass.
Yeah. He is definitely a fan of the derriere, and this causes an immense amount of grief between him and his daughter, again, who is the head of the Underground Student Council and Chiyo's sister. So, playing these characters, playing Chiyo, we have Kristen McGuire, who has been in shows such as The Helpful Fox Senko-san and That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. We have Anzu, who's played by Colleen Clinkenbeard, who you may know as Momo Yaoyorozu from My Hero Academia and Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tail. And playing the chairman, we have Smokey DeLang, who goes way back to the ADV days from such dubs as playing the dog in Pumpkin Scissors, and he was also in the old Houston dub for Rurouni Kenshin Trust and Betrayal.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, starting off, Jet, why don't you start us off?
Okay, sure. Well, you know what, it sounds like a sourpuss a whole night, so I'll get my negatives out of the way here first. When the sub first came out, I wasn't really a big fan of Kristen McGuire's Chiyo, and having revisited this years later, I honestly still don't really like it that much. I know she definitely improved by many leaps and bounds as an actress over the years, but she sounded really kind of flat for the first few episodes. And while she does a decent job of making Chiyo, seem very sweet and nice, her delivery never quite clicked for me. And while I did think she got a little better towards the back half of the show, it was probably one of the weaker performances in the show, if I'm being honest. But I guess to also be fair, I don't really like Chiyo much in general. Partly because her personality never really extends beyond being the quote-unquote nice girl even later into the manga. But also because her whole relationship with Kiyoshi is kind of based on him making flat-out lies that she never quite pieces together. And in general, I'm just a much bigger fan of Kiyoshi's very, very strange dynamic with Hana. So, moving on to Colleen with Anzu, again, ignoring that they got rid of the elephant in the room. I think that Colleen's performance here was very solid. Playing mature teenagers isn't anything new for her, but she did do a great job of making Anzu sound very relaxed and down-to-earth compared to the other girls in the show. And once he felt guilty about deceiving Shingo and almost getting him expelled, I believed it, and it helped to keep the stakes of the show, quote-unquote, dramatic. But of course, as solid as Colleen was here, the big standout here, and of course, one of the biggest in the dub, if we're being honest, is definitely Smokey DeLange as a chairman. Well, again, I felt like the dub script as a whole didn't quite get the joke for the show. At least as far as the chairman was concerned, it was definitely pretty spot on. And old Smokey here did a really great job of making his chairman sound very deep and dramatic, even though his fans really half the show fell to hide his butt fetish porn from his daughter. Seriously, I'm not here to kink shame anyone, but it's called Not Safe for Work for a reason. At least use it on your phone instead of your computer.
If the first episode's bath scene wasn't a safe indication, I don't know what else would be.
Yeah. I especially liked his delivery during the scene where he's wondering whether or not to give the boys an extra day to save themselves, and just how stone cold his tone of voice is when he's asking Kiyoshi whether he likes boobs or butts, as though it's a matter of life or death. And that was definitely one of the funniest things in the whole show, and it really showed how well Smokey had a grasp on his character. But of course, it's impossible to talk about this performance without talking about all the dramatic pauses he takes between sentences. And I have to give props not only to Smokey's perfect delivery for every single one of those lines, but also to the mixing team for how much they really sold the extra emphasis on them. It's kind of a shame Smokey doesn't have too many other credits to his name, but maybe we'll hear him again someday, somehow. I swear there's an old guy in My Hero Academia that sounds like a dead ringer for him, but I don't know, maybe I'm just being crazy here. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay, Roots.
Yeah, so this was probably one of my first exposures to Kristen McGuire as an actress. I was kind of okay with her Chiyo. It really... I don't think it was a bad... It was sort of... In that middle ground, I'd say. I won't say I didn't like it. I definitely didn't dislike it. But for all the interactions with Kiyoshi that Chiyo gets, there really isn't much that amounts to her character. So, I really don't... It was fine, I guess.
So when you
Sorry,
say fine, you mean like it was just okay, or do you mean she was fine?
Fine.
Or do you mean like she's just sitting there with a coffee mug and everything's on fire?
No.
This is
I
fine.
don't... It's not the Casey Green, this is fine kind of thing. It's just... You know, it worked for the character, but the character really didn't have all that much to do, even though it felt like the show wanted to give her more to do.
Yeah,
They gave her more to do at the very end of the episode of the show.
Yeah, towards the very end of the show, and she gets one good joke in the back half of the manga, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah. Like, there is maybe maybe two characters who actually, like, get a major improvement with the material the manga didn't cover. One of them that we'll get to, actually...
You mean the anime didn't cover?
The anime. One of the characters we'll be talking about a little later got a major improvement in an episode that we did not get because it got bundled with the manga.
Oh, joy.
A moment of silence. Let's pour our prison cups for all those great OVA episodes that we'll never get because they're bundled with the manga. I'm looking at you, My Hero Academia. I'm looking at you, School Rumble.
I've got water.
I'm especially looking at you, Kenichi, the Body Society. Like, seriously, it looks like the entire second half of the manga because they were bundled with OVA. Because it was OVA's bundled with the manga.
Right. Anyway, Colleen Klinkenbeard's Anzu. Again, I thought it was fine. Didn't set the world on fire, but really, for what the character had to do, the performance really didn't need to. I do like the more dramatic point after she revealed herself to Shingo. And all that happened, and she decides to help Anzu... to help Chiyo break into the prison office to help take care of the file transfers. That was the big dramatic arc of the second half of the series. I like that dramatic turn. But I think we're just here in this segment to talk about Smokey DeLange as a chairman. Like... He is deliciously over the top. The man is unabashedly horny. Which ends up saving the boys. I thought Smokey was hilarious. Especially the sort of dramatic overemphasis of the last word of every sentence. Oh, I feel like that would be good ASMR right there. Anyway. I thought,
Don't you mean ass, MR?
Noah, get in the corner.
Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, get back in the cage.
I'm gonna go beat myself now. Okay.
And no juice
Anyways,
for you
as you
later.
were saying,
Anyway,
Okay.
I thought Smokey was absolutely hilarious and over the top, and it was just... It's definitely one of the standout performances of the show. I absolutely love it to death.
Jamal, you're next.
Okay, so start with Kristen. Yeah, I'm gonna say right off the bat, you can kind of tell Kristen was kind of new here because I believe this was one of her earlier roles. This and Assassination Classroom. As a matter of fact, I was watching 4 episodes of this in the sub while I was waiting for Assassination Classroom. So that when I was shocked it was getting the dub, I was like, I'll be damned. So yeah, the way she portrays Chiyo, it kind of makes sense because Chiyo is kind of this naivete to her, so say disposition was kind of needed, and yeah, it does seem a little bit off-putting, but that's what the character kind of calls for. And I kind of like because I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I kind of like the rapport she had with Kiyoshi, because the rapport Kiyoshi had with Hana really makes me uncomfortable, but we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. She doesn't get as much to do here, so but what she does is kind of impressive, really, and especially what I've seen her later stuff too. So, Colleen clicking bear this Azu, I don't hear her play teenagers often, but when she does, she's always impressive. She manages to play that youthful quality of the voice. But I also noticed there was one type of voice I never really heard before. That was an episode of Love It where she gets interrogated by Maiko, and Maiko just stuffs out her muffles with her muff, and you can hear.
Oh, Jamal. We're trying to be classy around here.
Well, I mean, she did have to face the music.
You're not wrong.
Yep.
Could you tell this manga was written by a guy?
It's not her fault she got a face full of coochie. What can I say? It's my a friend of mine once said that chocha. Yeah, boy.
The girls are gonna kill us when they hear this episode.
Oh boy,
dude, the girls are the one that put us in this cage, man. Anyway, back to my point. Yeah, when you start to hear her inner thoughts, she uses a different type of voice I've never heard before. And I thought it was really impressive, and especially when she helps to break the guys out. I thought that was really impressive. But of course, the standout here is Smokey DeLang, because he has this kind of raspy, guttural tone to his voice. I guess that's why his name is Smokey. And the overemphasis on every last word in the sentence. I don't know what the context is for that, but that is impressive, and it was definitely needed for those kinds of scenes when you kind of facing the boss, I guess.
Yeah, it was some carryover from something the manga did. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was some kind of speech pattern.
So I can't help but feel with these situations the guys have to encounter that he feels a bit like a giant plot device, because he's the one that pretty much drives Mari's motivation to get the men kicked out of campus and reverse the co-ed policy, but he's also the one that essentially helps the guys escape the prison. So, I mean, depending on how you feel about that, it's not gonna dilute his performance. It's very strong, and that's really all I have to say. So,
Noah.
Can I come
You
out
can come out of the cage now.
Please. Oh, thank you. Thank
for
you.
now.
I was seeing stars in there. I was drawing my own diary. It was getting really maddening in there. I was this close to crawling through a mile of shit just to escape. Back on that topic, though. I feel like a lot of this manga is trying to remind all of us, what was it like to be back in high school? What was it like before, we had any encounters with the opposite gender, when we were still kind of starstruck because our hormones were ruling our whole body? So in that sense, Chiyo's involvement in the show as the reason that Kiyoshi would even attempt to try to break out of prison, knowing full well that doing so will result in an additional month sentence for everyone, totally makes sense. And they do that by, in the original Japanese, portraying her with a more stereotypical moe voice, which doesn't quite translate to the art style, because this art style isn't the cuter moe Kyoani style. It's more on the gnarlier, grosser side, which allows it to get some of those scenes where it does get very gross. But in translating that to English, we don't really have a really great English version of the moe voice. We have cute voices from actresses who do it pretty well, but it's hard to pull off really well without sounding like overly chipper, like overly Care Bearsy. So I'm really glad that Kristen did not try to go that route with Chiyo. Like, she gave her a more, I suppose, a girl next door voice that sounds a little less bright than some of the other girls, but it's more down to earth. And hearing her kind of chew out her dad and her sister for throwing the boys in jail, and also for her sister for essentially plotting to get the boys thrown out, is the more dynamic thing that she gets to do throughout the show. And I think Kristen did all right with that. Again, that's the most dynamic thing she gets to do in the show. And like I said, I preferred Kristen's take on this as opposed to the more moe voice that the Japanese seiyuu originally did. Moving on to Colleen, I don't think I've heard Colleen do this not snotty, but more uptight valley girl kind of voice before. I'm used to her as her adult voice, or her like really low voice, or contrast that, of course, with Luffy from One Piece. So this is, again, a kind of a voice I don't think I've heard from her before, and I think she did a pretty good job. I believe when I first watched this, I could have sworn it was Jamie. I didn't realize it was Colleen until I read the credits. So, again, it's not like she gets to do too much outside of the main plot, but I do like that they add that dynamicism in there to show that not all of the girls in the campus are so, I suppose, hate boys so much, because there's kind of the stigma throughout the show that the boys are in a losing situation because all girls in that school are kind of conditioned to dislike men in general, which, yes, we are awful creatures, and let us not try to deny that, but maybe not to the point that they're ostracized within the show itself. Like, even before the boys get thrown in prison, they're secluded to their own table at the lunchroom. They're basically treated as outcasts before they even break any rules. Speaking of breaking all the rules, oh my god, the chairman. Let it be said that I am not a fan of authority figures misusing their power to harbor favors or use their leverage to, break the law, essentially, which they kind of addressed that in the very last scene of the final episode, where he's like, yeah, we really I shouldn't treat my daughter right, or give her special treatment just because she's my daughter. To prison you go. Spoiler for everyone. And so Smokey's portrayal of that it's very similar to a lot of like gruff older men that you see in a lot of anime. Like, I'm kind of reminded of the granddad from Food Wars. But it is kind of a parody of that, because you expect those kind of men to be stern and straightforward and, I suppose, noble. You do not expect them to have an ass fetish. You do not expect them to be thinking about that one summer vacation they took to Latin America and the Brazilian hotties that they've still got pictures of. And you definitely don't expect them to use an ass mouse pad, even if they say it's just for their wrist. You just don't expect that to happen. So whatever that translation from the manga was, I think they translate it pretty well into the anime. And yeah, Smokey sounds like he's having a lot of fun with it. He has to play a straight-laced voice while still being a parody of that kind of voice. So yes, we are here to talk about Smokey, and I'm glad that we got to hear the dog from Pumpkin Scissors acting again. I haven't finished Pumpkin Scissors, I just know it as a show that really wanted to be Full Metal Alchemist.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, in the interest of moving forward, I'll be very brief. I think Kristen and Colleen did fine in their respective roles, and I have to agree that Smokey is absolutely hysterical as the chairman. So, with that, we are going to move on.
Oh, joy.
On to
Hardy,
our
you
main...
You just grew a full mustache in the last 2 seconds.
I've had this mustache for months now, actually. But anyways, yes, we're moving on to our main antagonists, aka the Underground Student Council, a trio of girls who they're basically trying to get the boys kicked out, and they have them locked in this prison, and they're plotting against them to get them expelled. leading the Underground Student Council is Mari. She is the daughter of the chairman and Chiyo's older sister. She is conniving, manipulative, and extremely spiteful and hateful. And while she never gets physical with the boys, she leads that to her two underlings. She manages to...
And she leads that to her crows.
All right.
The
right,
crow
yes.
master.
Anting, whatever anting is. But she manages to damage them more emotionally. And she's just an awful person. Under her, we have Maiko, who is the second in command in the student council, student underground council. And she is extremely busty and curvaceous, scantily clad, fitness.
Memories.
Again, when I made the earlier bit about where you can't tell when stuff is the office finishes and when stuff is just him trolling with you, that is literally everything with her character.
Yeah, she basically treats the boys like a dominatrix by whipping them with riding crops and performing wrestling moves, and the boys actually kind of like it, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, she's done some CBT, and not only that, those things have poked an eye out. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what Pete Wentz says whenever he leaves a strip club, right? Thanks for the memories.
Ooh.
I gotta put myself in the cage for that one.
Awesome. All right. Before you do, who's the third member of the council?
The third member of the council would be Hana. She is the blonde-haired, doe-eyed, apparently she has a split personality because she can go from cute and sweet to angry psycho bitch at the flip of a switch. And she is the martial arts expert who always wears shorts under her skirt so they can't take a peek. And the boys do not like getting beat up by her, unlike Maiko. And she also has an unfortunate experience with Kiyoshi that just leads to a series of events that just gets more and more uncomfortable over time.
Well, let's just
Ludacris
say...
would describe it. As Ludacris would describe it, it's splash waterfalls.
I'll say this.
Let's
If you're into water sports, you're in luck.
Or as R. Kelly would call it, a golden shower.
Yeah.
So.
This is the remix edition of a song about pissing.
Mama rolling that body, got every man in here pissing.
And mushrooms, don't forget those. But anyways, playing the three members of the Underground Steward Council, playing Mari is Tia Ballard, who you remember from her role in Darling in the Franxx and as Happy in Fairy Tale. Playing Maiko, we have Whitney Rogers, who you remember from Haganai and Maria the Virgin Witch. And playing Hana, we have Alexis Tipton, who was in My Bride is a Mermaid and Blood Sea. Now, Jet, why don't you start us off again?
Sure. Again, I'd prefer to get the negatives out the way, so I'll actually start with Whitney Rogers as Mako. To be clear, my problem here isn't really with the performance. I think that Whitney did a really great job of making Mako a very domineering tone. And I appreciate that her voice has a very natural sultriness to it that shines through in almost every scene she's in. Even when Mako generally isn't trying to be, since at least that's, partially the joke. But my problem again mainly kind of boils down to the script because almost everything I don't like about it kind of swarms around this character. Again, I was pretty familiar with the original manga before the anime came out, and throughout all of it, Insanity, one thing that is kind of clear is that despite how gratuitous all the fan service surrounding Mako is and how much she has the appearance of being a dominatrix, out of the entire underground student council trio, she's the one who kind of takes her job the most seriously. And while she doesn't necessarily respect the boys, because let's face it, no one does, they don't really deserve it. She takes pride in doing with them, and she takes any and all failures extremely, extremely seriously. And I feel like the dub gets some of that across really well, and Whitney does really good during Mako's moments of failure. It also spends just as much time having her drop silly one-liners and puns, even during scenes where Maiko is supposed to be serious. I mean, well, again, as serious as you can be with what the show's stakes are. And there's definitely a lot more, and he definitely throws a lot more casual insults around as he did in the Japanese version, which to me at times kind of made her feel like a slightly different character than what I was originally going for. Again, I know the joke in general is a very tricky one, and I'm not too surprised Amy and Tyson thought it would work better if they read them her dialogue. And I mean, there were some bits I found funny, and then some stuff where I felt like they went a little too far with it. I mean, I know it's probably going to get brought up at one point, but the whole "I can't hear you" thing kind of felt like, yeah, that was a little much. Moving on to Tia's Mari. Like with the treatment, I felt like this was another instance where the dub came the closest to fully grasping the joke. This particular role was pretty interesting to me because at the time it came out, like a lot of folks, I mostly associated Tia with Happy from Fairy Tale. And while I had heard her voice teenage girls before, I had never heard her go so deep and sultry with them. So it definitely came off as a little bit of a shock. And I really liked how Tia's overall tone of voice made it clear that as much as Maiko might look like a dominatrix, Mari is definitely the one who's running the show, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure order is maintained. But at the same time, as much as she might act like she's doing things for the sake of the school, it's clear that she's mostly just motivated by her hatred of boys because her dad doesn't know what not safe for work means. And Tia definitely gets that pettiness across just as well as she does Mari, attempting to be large and in charge. And when she finally does get served this slice of humble pie, it definitely makes the boys' victory very satisfying. And I also appreciate that as mean as Mari might be towards the boys, you can definitely tell that on some level she definitely does care about Maiko and Hana. And Tia definitely did a pretty good job of handling that too, so it was a fun performance. But with that out of the way, let's get to the real star of this section, and my resident best girl of the show, I don't care, fight me. Hana and Alexis did this performance. I don't care what anyone says, Hana did nothing wrong. Okay, sure, he gets Kiyoshi against his will, but Kiyoshi had pretty much everything else coming to him.
Kiyoshi did nothing wrong.
Okay, Kiyoshi technically did nothing wrong either, but he definitely didn't do anything right.
That's not saying a lot in this particular show, but you're right.
That's fair.
I mean, I liked... yeah. I mean, I liked it as much... I mean, I liked that much like with Hana Kanazawa's performance, so that just makes Hana, seem like he'd be very sweet and unassuming at first glance. But if you're around her for more than 2 minutes, you'll see that she can definitely snap at the drop of a hat. And when she does, she definitely makes Maiko look like a harmless kitten in comparison, and it's just kind of delightful to watch. And so, while there are definitely a couple of moments where I felt like the dub script maybe stretched a little too far with how crude she can get, out of all the girls in the show, it definitely makes the most sense for her to talk that way, so it generally works. And I definitely got a good kick out of some of her interactions with the boys.
Good kick. Was that on purpose?
I'm just going to ignore you because it wasn't. But speaking of the boys, the real heart and soul of Hana's character, and by extension, Alexis' performance, mainly boils down to her dynamic with Kiyoshi. Because no matter what his actual intentions are, almost every interaction he has with Hana ends with her getting humiliated in some fashion. And I love how well Alexis switches between making Hana seem like she's out for bloody vengeance and just being genuinely embarrassed that all this keeps happening to her. And I feel like the latter is kind of important because as we see with the whole pee bottle scene, which is frankly the best scene in the entire show, while Hana definitely acts tough, she also doesn't really know her way around guys as much as she likes the things she does. So it definitely helps to add to why she's so angry at Kiyoshi to begin with. And I really kind of wish that the show had gotten another season because as much fun as the show had with Hana, the back half of the manga gets even crazier with her, and the tension between her and Kiyoshi, literally anytime you interact, is just amazing, frankly. And the way they build up that whole arc only for it to end in like the biggest middle finger to an audience I've ever seen is just kind of amazing. And again, I really wish they adapted that. But for what we got here, Alexis did a great job with her. And I'm definitely glad she did, because again, Hana is kind of my favorite character, and she was definitely the standout when it came to the ladies of this dub, so good stuff.
Okay, Roots, you're up next.
Yeah, I'll start with Tia Ballard as Mari. she really didn't get to do a lot. And that's kind of a problem I had with the previous batch of characters. They just didn't get a lot of time to develop. And I think I think that's Mori's big problem.
So
yeah, like a lot of the really good stuff with Mari in the back half of the manga that they didn't animate. So that's
yeah, that the second arc where the girls are in the prison, that is where that's where she gets to shine, and even Hana gets some really good moments in there. Anyway, with what we got from the source material, Tia Ballard's performance was great. She's intimidating, despite the fact that she doesn't actually do much, if anything, to the boys directly. That air of menace was apparent from the first moment she stepped into frame, which, being Tia Ballard, and basically I also knew her as Happy from Fairy Tail, this was kind of an interesting experience. I will slightly disagree with Jed on Whitney Rogers' Mako. I do agree in the sense that she got the performance down perfectly. She is the right balance of just that dominatrix air to the boys, and then absolutely timid around the rest of the underground student council. I will say that I actually do kind of like how the scripts punched up her dialogue.
Punched, you say?
Like I said in the script writing and direction segments, I actually didn't mind that the profanity in the show was sort of ramped up from the Japanese version. I thought she got some really great lines. I feel like if the actual anime played things a little sillier than the manga does, I feel like it would have been an absolutely perfect fit. But I'm not going to say it doesn't work, it just feels very different. And Alexis Tipton as Hana. Boy howdy, I've got a stream of opinions, and I give her a gold star.
Hey, the only golden thing she gets.
Her entire character arc is absolutely hilarious. I love how she just goes from absolutely crazy to terrified in just the drop of a hat. She is also absolutely scary in the second half of the show, and that was also really fun. Hana's just a fun character, and Alexis Tipton breathed a lot of life into her, and it was great. All three of these I actually really enjoyed, so solid performances all around.
Okay, Jamal.
Alright, let's start with the president. Tia, this is so unusual because, like everybody else, yeah, I knew Tia's Happy Fairy Tail. I also know as Eris and Cat Planet Cuties, and this is kind of anti-Tia if you think about it, like inverse Tia, because other than Reg Muhammad, I've never heard her use this kind of voice before. It's still impressive, even on second and third rewatch. So the fact that she kind of plays inverse to the character archetype she's used to, it's kind of impressive. Especially when she has to play around with a character who handles crows. To which, kudos to Jamie and Tyson for fitting in an Edgar Allan Poe reference in the first episode. But yeah, so she did a pretty good job. And now moving on to Milk, and Lemonade over here.
No.
In the next few sections, fudge is made. Anyway,
I'm out of
Whitney
here.
watches this.
My work here is done.
Man, your sentence isn't up yet for at least another hour. Get back here.
Anyway, Whitney Rogers is Maiko. I don't get to speak about Whitney Rogers often, but her voice is kind of impressive. This is like pre-Don Bennett for me because even though I watched it over and over again, it kind of sounds to me like Don Bennett to the point I've actually confused the two once upon a time. And Whitney works with what she's got, and I remember asking her this at A-Fest one year because I think, you know, when actors have to deal with this kind of stuff, it really takes them out of the comfort zone. Especially that scene with, I want to say either the figurine or orchestrated Audra's breakout. You fat fuck, did you call me mommy? I was like, I just about lost it at that point because I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're really gonna draw this man out just to help orchestrate your plan. But yeah, Whitney does the best with what she's got. That's all I have to say, but I think it's pretty obvious who's the standout here. That is Alexis Tipton as Hana, because for one thing, I kind of have to disagree with Hana. I don't think she has a split personality. She is what we would call fronted, meaning she's basically putting on airs, because you can tell at times when she's sweet, kind of almost to sacred kind of levels, and then she just achieves that drop and starts becoming a crazy bitch. To the point, she even kind of overlays that with her sweet sacred voice as well. I mean, you can hear that in a couple episodes, but man, when she loses it, it is fucking terrifying. As somebody who's been kicked in the nuts, I can definitely feel Hana's pain come at you. But I think probably the best part out of all this, in addition to the pain she kind of has to deal, is the last couple of episodes where it's essentially the battle of wits in quotation mark, between her and Kiyoshi. And it kind of and it kind of came to a climax like towards the end of episode 12 when they're in the chairman's office and she just knocks out Kiyoshi for tricking her. But kind of gonna have to disagree with our best girl because I would agree that she's like the least worst girl out of all three of them. But when somebody threatens a murder suicide and pretty much tries to go R. Kelly on you, taking golden showers and everything, that kind of that really makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. See, I would agree with you if I were taking this show like dead seriously.
What,
okay,
you're not?
I mean, taking this show seriously. Okay, I mean, taking this show seriously. And how it takes itself seriously.
I take all my comedy seriously. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, personally, it works for me. Personally, it just works for me the overtop nature of like, okay, this is a character that clearly does not understand guys as much as he wants to pretend he does. So it kind of works for me.
She even said that like, I'm gonna do to you whatever you gonna do to her first.
It's like okay, yeah, because like as it established later on, like she has like when it comes to guys, he has like the mentality of like a 5-year-old. So to her, it's like okay. So for her, it's like, oh, okay, you did this to me, like I do this back to you. This makes sense to me. So when Kiyoshi, starts making out with her, she's like, wait, what? Wait, no, this is how it's supposed to go. No.
I'd say she bit off more than she could chew, but yeah.
Are we safe to move on?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Wait, didn't you have anything to say, Hardy?
No, we haven't talked to Noah yet.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm done, so.
I'm still reeling over here from the fact that, Hardy, in mentioning roles that Tia has done before, you had to pair Darling and the Franxx with Happy from Fairy Tail. Like, the two roles you could have picked, those were the two you had to pair together?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely did.
Okay, like, yeah, I guess he did because I still remember his one line from Darling and the Franxx episode we did.
Mm-hmm. I suppose so. I mean, I guess those are the ones that the average listener would remember her the most for, so fine, I'll let that go. I mean, I was with Jamal. I was more I remember her more as Aries from Cat Planet Cuties, which is a very different role from this kind of performance. But that just makes it more impressive because although you guys are right, she doesn't get to do too much in the show itself because the show is kind of relying on a couple of stereotypes for you to associate her cool, controlling personality with other anime characters that you've seen with that similar personality type. Tia is indeed commanding with that voice. It's the kind where, yeah, I get the idea that she is completely ruling the school. Yes, she probably is a pimp off campus, and anything that she says that she wants to happen will happen. I think her first introduction, the first episode, where she kind of like slowly reveals to Kiyoshi that she is the president of the Underground Student Council, is kind of sets the tone throughout the rest of the show. And even though she doesn't get too much, aside from coordinating Planet, what's it called, Destroy Testicles Operation.
Mm-hmm.
That is
DTO.
Operation Destroy.
I didn't mention that before, but it's kind of weird how they translated that. Because in the Japanese, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but I guess. Okay, but it originally was.
I think it was Danshi Taigaki or something like
I
that.
mean, it says right in the anime, like you can see the printed words in English what it would translate to.
That's it. Yeah, it's like they literally say exactly what it translates to, which is like get rid of the boy. So
yeah,
translating it to destroy tentacles was definitely very creative. I'll give them that.
It was, and they even maintained
Where
the
did
gag.
tentacles come in?
Okay, you know what I meant. Screw you.
I mean, I assume destroy mushrooms operation wouldn't quite fit the anagram, but my point is that Tia does a good job with what she's got, and from what you guys have said, it sounds like there's some more interesting material in the manga that would be interesting to see adapted. Given that it's been 5 years since the show aired, and JC staff is off doing other wonderful works right now, like Food War Season 5, I think it's safe to bet that they will not be coming back to that anytime soon.
That's it. I mean, I would certainly rather see a season 2 of Prison School than season 5 of Food War.
I'm trying to think, what's like the longest gap between any of their productions? Like the one that I was surprised by more recently was that, and this wasn't JC staff, I don't think, this was, I forget who did it, but that there was a fourth season of Full Metal Panic, almost like 10 years after the last one came out.
As I remember there was like a really long gap between seasons 2 and 3 of Index. So they definitely have had long waits before.
By the time 2022 comes around, Tiger and Bunny will have them all beat with, well, I think, an 11-year time gap.
That one did surprise me. So, okay, so you're right. Weirder things have happened. So, who knows? Maybe for the 300th episode, we'll be covering the dub of Prison School Season 2. Speaking of Prison School Season 2, let's talk about the two major assets of this show, the two jubblies that keep this whole show going. Okay, Maiko's entire personality does come off as like this weird amalgamation of fetish and cheesecake that was told to be stapled into the show, even if the mangaka didn't think it should go that far. And it does not help that the anime loves to pull what we have colloquially referred to as the crotch cam. We've got to take a shot. We've got to show the footage of what's going on in the show through Maiko's crotch. And it is only through those thin, lacy purple underwear that we don't see her Medusa.
Oh no, that was only in the manga too. I think it was just like the excessive sweating is the part where it's like, you can't tell if this is like an actual fetish or again just to offer trolling you.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm good with trolling in a show that, I'm sorry, Jamal, but I'm not taking this 100% seriously. If there was like some sort of social commentary I was supposed to make with this content, maybe I could take it more seriously. But I'm in this for the Tarantino-esque fascination of violence and badass women. Okay, this is Kill Bill Part 3 that we never got.
But it has no feet fetish though.
Oh, you say that, but Maiko's heels can curb stomp you like a motherfucker.
But they're still covered in shoes, though.
Well, yes, but we have to get it on broadcast television. We can't show the full foot. Come on now, we're civilized.
All right.
Which is why there are god beams covering titties throughout this entire show. Watch the uncensored version, people.
Don't watch the uncensored version.
I
mean, watch the uncensored version. I thought you said don't watch the censored. Fuck, you know
Okay, you have to pay attention, Jamal.
what I was going to give Whitney Rogers some compliments on this because pulling off Maiko's intense energy is not easy, because she is not only overly abusive to the characters with lots of different terms being thrown out here and there. She's also got to play not shy. Shy is not the right word. Timid. She's got to play timid when she's worried that she's let down Mari in certain scenes. You know, she basically bends over backward and said, "Please spank me, please, master."
I think she bent over backwards in one episode.
All the way backwards. In fact, that made me a little uncomfortable. But Whitney does not make me uncomfortable. For the entire endeavor, that could not have been an easy role to play off, because if you have too much energy, like if you're just way over the top, you come off as just like I said, you're over the top. And we've seen that in some like 4Kidsifying dubs before, where it doesn't sound like a person anymore, it sounds like an animal let into the recording booth. And if you play it too reserved, then it just doesn't pack that punch that we needed. So I think she fit the right balance in between the two, and I don't have any qualms with the writing on it because it fit with her personality type, with all the blood spewing, all of the teeth being knocked out, the sweat, all of the bodily fluids. Good job, Whitney. With that being said, this is a JC Staff production, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If there's one thing that I think we all come to expect from a JC Staff show, it is the archetypal character of the tsundere. You could look at Familiar to Zero, Food Wars, Shakugan no Shana, any number of shows that I'm not listing off the top of my head that have Toradora. There's another one that's got a tsundere character, and it's basically the same character in every single one of them.
I mean, like okay, so are you saying that Hana should have been voiced by Rie Kugamiya?
Wait, she wasn't?
Like, can you really tell me?
No, like she wasn't actually.
But you can't tell me that wouldn't have been out of place. But with Hana, it's not the same type of tsundere, because we get something quite different. We get a much more spastic version of that, because she does get she gets blushy and flustered when confronting Kiyoshi, when she's rubbing up against his mushroom and she doesn't know what is that thing, or the entire scene where she's basically trying to steal his first kiss. But it's a much more extreme version of that, and one that I don't think JC Staff has quite put in any of their other shows before. It's a nice variation. I like that this is a different, more extreme version of their archetypal tsundere, which, I'm all for tsunderes. I'm all for that. I'm here for that. But Hana doesn't have pigtails, so she can't be that exact kind of character. And Alexis's portrayal of both sides of that personality is really fun to watch. I'm not a urine guy. I'm sorry, that's just not for me. I don't search that page on Pornhub search engine, but maybe for people who do, that's more their style. But for every other part of Hana's personality, I like the extremes that Alexis gets to have with her without being so over the top that it's unbelievable as a character. There's still some humanity in there. It just sounded like she was having a lot of fun, from all the kicking you in the ass to drinking her dandelion tea.
She drank a lot more than her dandelion tea, I'd have to say.
We have no shame, people. Yes, if you have not listened to any episodes in the 200 we've done so far, now you know we are a shameless, shameless bunch.
And surprisingly, an Andrewless episode, so.
Would you stop picking on the guy? He's paid his dues to society.
But
Not
so
yet,
fun to
he
throw under
hasn't.
the bus.
But
Anyways, are you done, Noah?
I'm going to pass the ball and chain over to you, Hardy. Please tell us, are these three the best women or not?
They're the best at being so bad, and we love them for it. I'm just gonna be real brief again. Sultry Tia is always a delight. I enjoy when she gets to play her lower register, which is why I actually really did enjoy her as 02 in Darling in the Franxx. This was kind of the precursor to that now, looking back on it. Bari didn't really get to do much in the show, but Tia still played her very well. Maiko is very hilarious when she gets to beat up the boys and kowtow to Mari. She sounds really, really fun. And Alexis Tipton as Hana is she's just the little blonde cupcake on top of the whole sundae.
That spice with cayenne pepper.
Right. Which actually, that's pretty good. Cayenne muffins are actually very tasty.
I say that because you get a kick out of her.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anyways, that's basically my opinion. Let's move it on to the boys now, the 5 boys who are the main characters. The first 2 we're going to group together because they don't have as much to do with the overall show as the other 3. We're going to be talking about Joe. He is a short, scrawny boy who is always wearing his hoodie, even in the shower sometimes. He suffers from very bad canker sores that cause him to spit up blood. And also he loves ants to the point of obsession, to where he names them after X-Men characters. And then we have Andre,
aka the best character in the show,
who is large and obese and has a tiny little face resembling that of a scrunched up Buddha with massive floppy ears. And he has a sadistic fetish. He loves being punished physically and mentally abused. He's just a big old glutton for punishment, and he gets into withdrawal when he doesn't get his daily abuse. And playing these characters, we have Chris Bevins as Joe, who you may remember from Aka 13, and also the main role of both Aquarion and Aquarion Evil, and he directed all 3 Aquarion series, in fact. That show is basically his baby. And playing Andre, in a very peculiar voice, we have Sunny Straight, who you obviously remember as Kuro-sensei from Assassination Classroom, and Krillin from Dragon Ball Z. Now, Jet, why don't you start us off?
Okay, sure, I guess I'll start with Joe. So out of the main 5, Joe kind of has the least amount of presence, so I don't have like a whole ton to say about Chris's performance. Joe is kind of the quiet one, so to speak, and while he is a bit of a dude bro, he isn't nearly as much important as Shingo is. So he just kind of mostly keeps to himself, and I feel like Chris did a good job of, I just kind of letting him fade into the background when he needed to. Whenever Joe does have something to say, though, Chris definitely knows how to get it across. And I definitely got a pretty good kick out of all the bits where Joe was going AWOL over his ankle after getting messed with. And just how much he made Joe so that he could easily snap at the drop of a hat. I thought that was pretty fun. But at the same time, while Joe is kind of crude, he's not exactly an angel. When he does see that Kiyoshi is a stand-up guy, or, about as set-up as you can be with this kind of show, he sticks up for him. And Chris did a pretty good job of making that transition seem sincere. I wish I had a little bit more to say here, but even in the manga, Joe doesn't really do as much as the other 4, and his gimmick never extends beyond the whole canker sores thing. So, Chris did a good job of what he had. Moving on to Sunny Straight as Andre. So when I say that Kristen McGuire's Chiyo was probably the weakest performance of the dub for me, Sunny Straight's Andre is probably the one I like the least.
Oh, come on.
Okay, I get what he was going for here. Andre has a very weird looking and distinctive character design, so he probably figured that Andre should have the voice to match. But it honestly didn't really click for me. Firstly, because as I've said over and over again, it doesn't really match with the overall joke of the show. Yeah, Andre's design is very weird, and his overall character is kind of weird. But within the context of the show, he's treated about as seriously as the rest of the boys. And the Seiyu Kazuyuki Okitsu's tone of voice sounded, he sounded about as much of a normal high school boy as the others did, so he fitted pretty well there. But mostly, though, what I don't like about it is that Sunny Straight's take is just really, really annoying to listen to. Again, while you can only take this show but so seriously, it is a pretty compelling escape from what it wants to be. But almost every time Andre opens his mouth, it kind of takes me out of things. Especially during the moments where the show kind of is trying to go for actual tension. And it just kind of makes the whole performance feel like a big distraction at times. but again, for what it's worth, I don't think that Sunny's actual acting here is bad. While the voice is very grating, Sunny does a very good job of keeping consistent while maintaining it. And he manages to keep it up even during Andre's more dramatic moments. And I definitely was amused that there were, maybe a couple of times where he dropped a couple of octaves for laughs. I thought that was pretty good. But overall, it kind of felt like Sunny and the crew were trying to add in a joke that was never really there to begin with. And while I can understand what they were going for, I just didn't really care for it personally.
But
I'm done.
Jet, you've seen Digimon Tamers, right?
Yes.
Were you not a fan of Guillemon's English voice?
I mean, okay, you are taking two very different... Yes, they sound similar, but you are taking two...
Different?
I don't even know how you're drawing that as...
What?
I don't even know how you're making that comparison aside from how those voices sound.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They're very two different kinds of characters with very two different kinds of intentions. Guillemon is kind of... Guillemon, yes, Steve Bloom's Guillemon sounds weird. But it also sounds kind of childish, which is what the character is, supposed to be.
Not to mention, Guillemon is played by Masaki Nozawa in the Japanese.
So there wasn't really any other way Steve Bloom was really going to be able to match that. Except, comparison to what was going on here, Katsuyuki Okitsu sounded normal.
In the Japanese.
Straight does not.
You're right, Andre's Japanese was way different than the English, I'll give you that. My point was only that if you could get with the voice overall, because you've heard it in other things, like the obvious one is Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which is not...
Okay. When I say the voice greets me, it's again within the concept of it felt like a distraction.
Yeah.
If I felt like it matched with the overall tone of the show, I would be like, sure, fine. But again, literally no other character in the show sounds like that. I'm thinking now, what if they redubbed the show and everybody had that voice? Like, just all...
Oh, good God, I dropped that in a heartbeat.
Like this throughout the whole thing.
Can we please move on now?
Release the Meatwad
Yes, we got move on. 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yes, okay, I'm done. That was what is still going.
All right. Okay. Are you done, Jet?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Roots.
All right, so I'm going to start with Joe, mainly because there's, almost nothing I can say about the performance. I liked what was there, but there was maybe... I felt like the character had, a minute or two of dialogue through the whole show. He's largely quiet throughout the course of the series, and a lot of his... quote-unquote dialogue is just a big mean cough. So, I did like the scene where Murray's crows were getting into his ants, and he freaked out. Especially because the logical conclusion of that scene went down, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I also like when he stuck up for Kiyoshi after he stopped him from doing something terrible. Which, unfortunately, because the episode 13 that the series got was bundled with a volume of the manga, the actual storyline we would have gotten with the character of Joe, that hasn't been dubbed and will likely never be dubbed. Probably never even get a home video release. As for Sunny Straight as Andre, I largely agree with Jet that the performance itself was great. I absolutely love the scene where he's basically getting blue-balled by Maiko and he just absolutely loses his damn mind. But I also have to agree that the sort of Gorgie want munchies and crunchies voice was very grating and annoying.
Was that a Black Cauldron reference?
Yes, Noah, it was a fucking Black Cauldron reference. I went there.
You just jumped up 3 points in my playbook. Good job.
Which actually, fun fact, it's my understanding that Sunny Strait actually does enjoy the Disney Black Cauldron movie.
Doesn't everybody?
It's better than what people think. I'll say that.
Future episode.
But that was basically my piece. We can move to Jamal. I really don't have much to say about either of them.
All right, Jamal, go and take the floor.
I kind of feel weird talking about one of them for personal reasons, but starting with Joe, yeah, I agree. Joe doesn't get much to do until like the back half, where he has the incident with Mari because he almost stabbed her to death. And Kiyoshi, well, let's just say he saved his ass, if you know what I mean.
He took one for the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of violent slapstick in this show, but I really felt that scene.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, but yeah, it's funny because normally when I hear Bevins in the role, I associate him with like some type of nerdy characters. Like, he has this kind of nasally, gravelly tone to his voice that he sounds kind of like a nerd. To the point, he's more like a nerdy Beavis, if I could put it like that.
I'm sorry. That just cracked me up. I'm sorry. Nerdy Beavis.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I was
Those are two words I would have never put together, but they sound so amazing when you do. Nerdy Beavis. I need to write that down.
That's the impression I get from his voice. I couldn't remember if it was him or Butthead, but I think Mike McFarlane would be the Butthead.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because the two sound kind of similar, but
they look kind of similar. If Bevins had blonde hair,
yeah, I want to picture that. But yeah, it's pretty much when Joe gets to change it high, he stops editing Kiyoshi. That you kind of see his character for what it is, even though it wasn't as much. Especially in the last couple episodes when you find out the twist. And I'm just going to call by his actor's name, because I'll explain to you why this feels kind of weird to me. So, Sunny, he kind of has to plot airs with this character, because he had to decide whether he
gotta give us this weird meatwad kind of voice. But the problem with the meatwad kind of voice is, even when you don't hear it as much, it is kind of annoying, but after a while, you kind of learn to deal with it.
But I think the bigger problem for me is like in the early episodes when you start to get into his character development, because when you like getting spit on, beating on is one thing, getting spit on is just downright fucking nasty. And I don't know how anybody could like that, but that's just personal preference. But I think Say did a good job of what he was given. Yeah, it's not akin to the Japanese, but it doesn't have to be really, because Sunny's kind of with his own world, much like his character, but I kind of appreciate him for it, so I think it's safe to move on.
I'll tell you this, Jamal. If you think people enjoy being spit on is weird, don't ever watch the show Mysterious Girlfriend X.
Oof.
Yeah. I don't plan on it, so.
Hardy, have you seen more of that than just the first episode?
No, and I'm not going to. But I've heard it's actually kind of good if you can stomach the gross parts.
That's also what I've heard. I don't think that's enough for me to want to watch it either.
Yeah, same here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, Noah, it's your turn.
It's really, I don't really think of Chris Bevins as an actor very much, because I know him more for his directing work, which is, this show doesn't really change that opinion very much, because like you guys said, Joe doesn't get to do too much. I feel like in making the concept for the show, they had 4 pretty established characters in mind, and then they stood back and realized, shoot, we can't do just a 4-person group. That's not what Sentai does. We gotta have 5. All right, let's just throw a 5th person in there. Just make him a hooded, scrawny cankersaur guy, and he likes ants. I feel like they were tossing ideas at a dartboard. So it's not like Chris had a whole lot to work with in creating this character, but he doesn't make a farce of the character. He plays up the more dramatic parts of it, the sadder parts of it, and there are some sad parts with Joe's character design, not his character design, with the fact that he seems like the weakest of the entire group, like the one who would just tap him and he would just fall on over. So I think Chris did good for what he had to go off of, and it's very easy to take what are essentially background characters and mess them up. We've seen many anime before, many dubs where one-shot characters or background characters aren't given a whole lot of thought or personality because the actor decides, well, they're not going to be in it much, so why try? Chris doesn't do that. Chris, he's, go hard or go home in his personality. And speaking of going hard or going home, I remember when we recorded this episode originally that we had a schism on who did and didn't like Sunny's portrayal of Andre, and I was firmly on team I like it camp, solely because although the show, maybe the manga was a little more serious and it was easier to take it seriously because you were just seeing the panels and not the full-on collisions and the action and the best breast bouncing and all of that. It's kind of hard to take the content of this very seriously, especially because, like I said, I don't feel like it's a social commentary on anything. It's just kind of...
Okay, I said it before again. When I say taking it seriously, I don't mean I'm literally taking it seriously. I mean, the joke is that the material takes itself very seriously.
Yeah, and with the original Japanese audio for Andre, that made more sense because it was just a lower but normal-ish sounding high school voice. And then Sunny decided not to do that. And this kind of colored what I expected Sunny to do from this point in his dubbing career forward, because I remember we made predictions for Pandora and the Crimson Urn, and we had to guess who was going to play the three-footed flower mascot character. We're like, well, it looks like a Sunny character, and lo and behold, it was a Sunny character. So as far as what he did for this show, I don't dislike it because I enjoy the goofier, more cartoonish part of the show. I don't like it so much when it does get when the characters do get more serious. I know part of the joke is that they're treating expulsion like it's on par with an execution. And that's actually a joke that we've seen quite a few anime do before. I know Kakegurui did that too. They treated death in that show, like people were gambling with their lives, as just kind of frivolous. But in the very last episode, the gamble was you would be expelled. And that was treated as almost worse than dying or losing an eye or losing your fingernails. So the show isn't exactly unique in that regard, but it's in line with how seriously, I guess, society treats graduating from high school. If you don't do that, you're nothing. Andre is definitely someone, though. I agree with what you guys said. The voice is what it is. If you like it, you like it. And if you don't, well, I guess you can always just switch over to the Japanese. But that's my piece.
Okay. Again, my opinions... I'll be very brief, especially with these two. Joe really doesn't say much, but in the moments that he does get to speak, it's interesting hearing Chris talk like this because this is different from how he usually sounds. And he sort of has this sort of gruff, sickly edge to Joe that really works when he does actually speak. And did anyone else appreciate his Yoda voice?
Yes!
Yes! Thank you for reminding me of that.
Judge me, you will.
Yeah. But he does really sound like the kind of guy who you could just flick with your finger and he'd fly against the wall. And Mako literally does that. So, kudos to him. Sunny Straight's Andre, I'm back and forth on it because I think it did grow on me as it went on, but the initial shock was just like, why this voice with this character? It's mainly taking advantage of the fact that he looks goofy and he's giving him a very cartoonish voice, and it's way different from the Japanese, and it is very much a like it or hate it sort of thing. But you made the comment earlier that what if the entire show was dubbed with Andre's voice? It's funny you should mention that because in one of the audio commentaries starts out with all three of the actors being interviewed who are not Sunny Straight speaking in Andre's voice.
Oh, good God.
In fact, during Double Talk, it sort of became a meme that everyone's speaking Andre's voice. And it's very much a love it or hate it thing. Do I think it ruins the dub? No. but I mean, do have the question why they went in this direction. Like I said, it grows on you over time, but yeah, it's very much a peculiar casting choice. But I mean, Sonny directed it, so he gets to do what he wants anyways. All right, moving on. We're going to do the last three boys individually. We have Shingo. He's sort of a standard juvenile delinquent type, one of the more straight-edged of the five. Kind of got a bit of a chip on the shoulder, has a weakness for the ladies, but deep down he's actually a really cool dude who doesn't like kids fighting over each other, and deep down, even though he has issues with his friends, he will stick up for them in the end. And playing Shingo is Mr. Clifford Chapin. Obviously, you know him as Bakugo in My Hero Academia, and also recently in Hensky. So, Jet, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So it's hard to think back to a time where Clifford Chapin wasn't a household name in Funimation. But this was definitely back when he was a little less well-known, which then kind of makes the casting choice here kind of weird. Give it a joke because in the Japanese version, like literally all five were like extremely popular seiyuu, and that was like part of the joke. But again, I can't really complain because B definitely fit here like a glove. While this role precedes Bakugo by a good year, you can definitely hear some of it in how Clifford handles Shingo. And out of all the boys, he definitely comes off as the biggest dude bro, both in terms of his tone and his dialogue. And Clifford does a really great job of balancing between Shingo being the kind of guy you'd hang out with as a teenager, and also the kind of jerk who never quite lets go of the grudge. And that part definitely takes up a lot of what he goes through over the middle of the show. And it goes from, being very mocking, but, generally supportive of Kiyoshi, despite a few no-homo comments. But as I bet that in the second half, he kind of switches to being a little bit of a bully and a sellout the second he learns that Kiyoshi tried to break out. And Cliff just makes him come off as a real jerkwad, while, also keeping things down back just enough so you can sympathize with him a little bit. That definitely helped to make the whole scene where he sees the kids in the park, ganking up on one of their friends and realizing that he's been doing the same thing to Kiyoshi. He makes that whole bit feel very believable. And while, Shingo isn't exactly all sunshine and rainbows after that, because again, the boys do indeed suck, he's definitely a lot more likable after that. And Cliff definitely handles the drama of those moments pretty well. It's not one of my favorite performances in the dub, but it's definitely a very solid one. And even with some of the problems I have here, I'm definitely very happy that Clifford's career pretty much only ever took off from here.
Okay. Roots.
Cliff's Shingo, I really did like the performance. It's one of my favorites of the show. In fact, I really liked all three of the boys we're about to cover. I really liked that Cliff sort of gave him that lovable punk persona. Because even, the show after Shingo kind of sells his friends out in order to get time outside of the prison. Eventually this is going to be found out and, there'd be a confrontation, but everybody reconciles. So you can't make Shingo too unlikable. And I think Cliff actually did a really good job sort of not only making Shingo a bit of a jerk in those scenes, but also painting him with enough sympathy that when you eventually had to have everybody come back together and, get over their shit and figure out how to get themselves out of the jam they got themselves in, I thought that was really believable. So, a thumbs up on Cliff for playing Shingo.
Okay, Jamal, you're up next.
This is kind of an unusual situation because for the longest while, I've always preferred Cliff in comedies. Ever since the days of Good Luck Girl and Assassination Classroom to And thank you for mentioning Head's game because I really think that's where he kind of shines the most. You know, like he kind of has his own natural approach to how he does things. I mean, he can be good at dramas too, but when he's kind of natural in comedies, it really makes things all the more intense. Especially playing around with Shingo, who, yeah, comes off as a standard juvenile delinquent, but he really kind of amps it up a bit thanks to the script. to the point, like, of course, he has to curse out Kiyoshi for his treasons, as for his actions, really. And it's kind of funny how you said Bevis would look like Beavis if he had blonde hair. I think he would look like Shingo if he had blonde hair, if you think about it. Because I think that's another thing, too, because, you know, when actors can kind of play characters that kind of mind themselves in some way, it really breaks out a more natural tone, really. It really amplifies the antics, basically. I don't really have as much to say about Shingo. I did like his underpinnings as a character, especially the dramatic moments with both Arzu and the third strike against them. So, you know, he really shows his guts and glory. So, what can I say?
All right, Noah.
Is it cliche to say that that Shingo is basically baby's first Bakugo?
I would think that's closer to Connie, probably.
Well, the only
this is pre Bakugo, so
no, I know it is, but in watching this, 5 years after it was recorded, and seeing some of the freak out moments that Clifford does, it really sounds a lot like his Bakugo voice. He definitely dips into that, especially in the midpoint where he finds out that they were planning a breakout and they didn't tell the team about it. He goes into full on Bakugo mode, so it's kind of interesting to hear that before My Hero Academia obviously broke. And that's probably the most interesting thing that Clifford gets to do in this whole thing. But he does get some more dramatic moments throughout the whole thing. Especially when he's kind of contemplating, throwing his friends under the bus, trying to get in good with the girl, rushing towards the end, and the loveliness of being saved from crushing death from a truck by the wet t-shirt contest. Men, let us all hail the wet t-shirt contest.
All hail!
Would you believe me if I told you that it's still the main motivation for the entire second half of the manga?
I would believe you wholeheartedly.
Yes, keep that going for the entire second half.
Honestly, I should be surprised, but I'm not. Come on.
Please tell me that this manga is available legally. I have to find it now, Jet.
Yes, it actually is available legally. I don't remember who's publishing it, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty. Okay, they're definitely past what the anime covered.
Okay, but whoever they are, I will throw much money at them. But yeah, as far as the acting portion of this, it's a dynamic role in what he gets to do, and I guess the best thing I can say about it is that I like hearing bits of Bakugo before Bakugo even existed in this performance. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you say proto Bakugo. I say little bits of Connie from Attack on Titan as well. Because if you've ever watched Clifford, I watched Clifford do a live stream. He was playing Smash on the premiere of My Hero Academia, the first night it was on. And they did a little live show beforehand. And if you listen to him in his real life, when he gets frustrated, you could tell a little bit of that voice kind of comes out in his natural repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those little sort of screaming frustrations and that's just Clifford being Clifford, basically. So that's why I made the joke in the Two Heroes episode that playing Clifford Chapin, we have Katsuki Bakugo.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think he pretty much embodies that character to a certain extent. And so, yeah, that's listening to Shingo now, you could definitely tell that it was that he would later go on to play that sort of character. And he plays it really well, even though Shingo, in comparison to the last two boys, he doesn't really have that much of screen time. But yeah, you can definitely tell that he was the best choice to play this character. All right, let's move on to our second to last character. We have Gakuto. He is a tall, lanky nerd with glasses, and starts out with semi-long, shoulder-length hair, which later gets shaved off as a form of punishment. He refers to himself as yours truly, and he is obsessed with the romance of the Three Kingdoms. So to the point where he tries to find a way to sneak Kiyoshi out in order for him to buy a limited edition figure that is only available for one day. And playing Gakuto is the one and only Eric Vale. And this should be as no surprise to you playing such an off-the-wall kind of perv character like this, because he's also been in shows like Desert Punk and Aesthetica of a Rogue Hero. So, Jet, let's start with you. What did you think of Eric's performance as Gakuto?
Okay, yes, we finally arrived at the best boy, and possibly the only kind of decent boy in this whole show. So even though Eric Vale was pretty much my favorite actor in Funimation, and he's proven that he can play an incredibly wide range of characters, I was also a little surprised when they first casted him here. And not because I didn't think that Gakuto wasn't within his vocal range. I mean, he's definitely no stranger to play teenagers. But because Katsuyuki Konishi's performance was so distinct, I wasn't really sure who was going to be able to match it. And if you don't know who Katsuyuki Konishi is, you would probably know him best as Kamina from Gurren Lagann, if you want to imagine Kamina crapping his pants. So,
Wow.
Oh boy.
Now there's a mental image.
No, thank you.
yeah, so,
No, sir.
behold,
I don't like it.
Despite my uncertainty, he definitely managed to pull it off. Right away, he does a really great job of making Gakuto sound immediately distinct from all the other boys, by giving him a very high-pitched and kind of nerdy tone. But unlike Sunny Street's Andre, it still sounds like something that would belong to a typical teenage boy, and it definitely really worked for Gakuto's character. Speaking of Gakuto's character, I also appreciated that while I've been kind of harsh on the dub script in other areas tonight, they definitely did a really good job of translating Gakuto's very formal speech patterns into English. And they definitely did a really great, and Eric did an equally great job of making, Gakuto attempt to sound very refined and crafty, even when he's just spending most of the show getting put through the ringer or literally getting dunked on. But it's funny that the show can be in general. A lot of the best moments just really belong to Eric Gakuto, whether it's Gakuto going insane from trying to eat fried grasshoppers, or trying to distract someone with a really bad rap. I mean, that is kind of what the
Oh my god.
Eric pretty much almost never failed to make me laugh, and he definitely had a really good grasp on his character. But of course, the scene that was really going to make or break him came down to the legendary pooping scene. And I definitely liked that, despite how utterly ludicrous that entire scenario was. Eric's tone remained stone cold, serious, and overly dramatic throughout the whole thing. And in a lot of ways, it just made the entire sequence even funnier. And it was definitely a wonder to behold. And I also like that, as silly as Gakuto could be, compared to the rest of these boys, he has a good head on his shoulders. And he wants to do the right thing by his friends. And Eric gets a lot of Gakuto's inner turmoil over, leaving Kiyoshi to Detective Hall for him really well. And it was kind of nice when, he finally decided to confess his involvement to the others. There was definitely a whole lot to balance with this character, and Eric did a really good job did a really great job nailing it. And if I'm being frank, he was probably the best performance in the whole dub, so good job, Eric.
Mm-hmm. The legendary
Roots.
pooping scene. I'm so glad that you got to utter those lines on camera.
I mean...
on microphone.
I have no shame, so sure, go ahead.
All right. You're all set, right, Jet?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So, yeah, I think Eric Vale's Gakuto is probably one of the more solid, if not the most solid performance in the show. I love the fact that he has sort of a regal tone to his voice. Sort of akin to that quirk that you have to do when you overdub like samurai movies. Because if you don't know, for anime like Rurouni Kenshin, when they dub that, in order to sort of imitate the sort of country bumpkin ass accent that that Kenshin uses to obfuscate the fact that he is this trained assassin, he sort of uses this. He talks very fast and loose, but also does the the yup kind of thing.
I remember how they translated that for the manga.
Yeah, this is sort of the exact opposite of that, because in this case, Eric Vale is trying to play this with a sense of nobility to it, even though, you know, the character of Gakuto is anything but. I mean, now, refresh my memory, because it's been a couple weeks since I've watched the show. It was Gakuto's idea to snoop on the girls in the locker room, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was
in episode one, yeah.
Yeah, he was the
I don't remember if
ringleader.
it was exactly him, but he definitely was leading it.
Right. So, I mean, he's no saint, but then you grow to endear to him through the course of the show. Especially when he's making this speech about how he has put 7 years of his reputation on the line for this action figure. Basically shitting his britches in order to create a fart sound effect for Kiyoshi to be able to escape out into the real world and get him this figure. I love his freakouts about, you know, the 7 years of his life basically being thrown down the drain. But at the same time, when push came to shove, and it was the figure or his friendship with Kiyoshi, he smashed the figure and was basically just, you know, 7 years of my life is nothing if I don't have my pride as a man. And that was, like, really good. I really love the character of Gakuto. Eric Vale did a really great job with him. Absolutely hilarious. Pitch perfect. Thumbs up.
Okay, Jamal.
Oh, you suddenly ruined the nickname Chocolate Thunder for me now.
Oh my god.
The Thunder from Down Under.
I mean, that's not to say he's the butt of the jokes, you know?
Sometimes you just gotta let it all out.
But hey, at least we know what. At least we know now what can Brown do for you.
All right. Enough with the
And that's-
fart jokes. Jamal, let her crack.
Yes, I'll let it rip. Anyway, yeah. So Ericville is Gakuto. It's funny. With 200 episodes, I don't think I've ever once talked about Ericville at all, to the best of my ability.
Jamal, beat X.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's been a while, Roots.
Fair. It's been a decade of a year.
Anyway, so yeah, Ericville, yeah, he's always pretty much, at this point, he's pretty much typecast as the pervy high school student if you've seen him in recent shows lately, but seeing him here, this pretty much seems to be cakewalk and a half for him, because Gakuto really goes out there, like, he goes the distance, like, from not only being the cause of the problem when the boys land in prison to be the root of the problem. No, where he goes from being the cause of the problem to the solution of the problem, because while having some, let's just say, his containment kind of drove him a lot crazy. I mean, for one thing, having a rap battle with Chris George, that was kind of hilarious. Shitting your pants, eating grasshoppers, getting stabbed in the forehead, getting decked by both Maiko and Hana.
Yeah, I mean, when you really think about it, I think he suffers more physical punishment than even Kiyoshi does.
That is one physical challenge that I would not like to do. But in the heart of it, Gakuto is not only a very complex character, but he can be a very relatable character when push comes to shove, because, as Roots pointed out, the whole major turning point to me was the figurine, because I didn't actually think in a million years he'd break something he'd love, but I guess, pride is more important to him than his dignity or his sanity. Not his knowledge, because that comes with the territory. But Eric did a very good job as Gakuto. And, I mean, yeah, we do get to see more of him in these types of roles, but it's not the same kind of feeling, I mean, also, before we move on, there's something I want to ask. Where the hell did they get those tight-ass uniforms in the show?
It is a mystery that we'll never know.
I would bet we probably should never want to know either. But anyway,
Probably,
I'm done.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm done, so.
All right. Noah.
Well, to go off of Jamal's point about getting to talk about Eric Vale on this podcast, all I'll say is I like this show a heck of a lot better than First Love Monster.
Who does it?
Don't ever bring that show in here, Ricky Bobby. Don't bring that evil up in here now.
I didn't know I brought the Eric Vale.
I don't want to remember that show exists.
But now you do, and now you can't forget. You're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome?
Fuck you.
Later. So, this entire performance is indeed the heart and soul of the show. I mean, Kiyoshi may be the pretty boy poster child, but Eric's performance is basically what you keep watching the show for. And there was a fear, I remember in the first episode, that his character would basically be resorted only to crude or perverted antics throughout the whole show, because he was the one who instigated the peeping on the girls in the shower in the very first episode, which, again, we're not here to kink shame, but to be fair, treat your fellow classmates with respect. Luckily, though, his antics pivoted more towards the fanatical obsession with the Three Kingdoms figurine throughout the whole the first half of the show, and really the pain he goes through, the tactics he thinks up, the Lego interpretations of his plans. God, I love that little part in the animation. Yeah. All make him a really fun character to watch, even if he goes through the most dismembering, the most blood, the most crap, all the bloodily fluids. Eric pulls it off really well in the way that he sounded like he was having fun. I can't imagine that you would look at this, the writing in the show, like what he has to go through, or his schemes, or his entire arc, as it were, if you can even call it an arc, and take it entirely seriously. But there's so much heart to it that you can't not like it. And my favorite little bit is the moment where it's like in the midpoint of the show where he is worried that Kiyoshi did not actually get his figurine that he broke out of the school to get in the first place. And we in the audience are thinking the same thing, because, oh no, he got back to school early, his heart broken, oh god, he didn't do it, did he? He just pussied out and didn't get it. But then we see, no, I got it, it's right over there. And Eric's entire performance of just adulation, of glee, of finally getting this limited figurine made it all so worth it. So, do I have any qualms? No, I don't have any qualms with Eric's performance of this. Do I think that he should do more spastic, fanatical roles like this? Yes, absolutely. He is perfectly awesome as Yuki in Fruits Basket, but, he can do this part really well too, so if he does more like this, I will be totally there for it. More of this, please.
Did anyone else, I may be alone in this, but during Gakuto's various, frenetic rages where he just goes crazy, did anyone else hear a bit of like a high-pitched David Wald vibe.
In like what kind of
I have to
performance?
rewatch it now that you mention it.
I watched
Yeah.
it all today. David Wall never once crossed my mind.
I
It's
mean,
mainly the-
I mean, okay. I mean, I can kind of hear it now that you say it, but
Yeah.
Was something about just, you know, how over the top his speech is and how his voice is kind of gravelly, kind of like David's naturally is. And this is just a little bit higher pitched. Like I could definitely see David almost doing this role as well.
yeah,
But
good.
yeah. But anyways, I'm in agreement with everyone. Gakuto is easily the funniest character in my opinion on the entire show, and I think that's largely due to Eric's performance and his over the top antics. And we've heard Eric already in a lot of comedic roles, and this one is one of the standouts because I don't think it's like anything else he has ever done in his career. So, kudos to him. That's all I have to say. And finally, we are now down to our main character. We have Kiyoshi. He is basically the straight man to the five. He seems to be the one he seems to be the most innocent one, the least perverted, but at the same time, he is still a teenage boy and he has his urges. And even though he tries his best, he gets wrapped up in a lot of crap that is not his fault. And he's just trying to get by with his quick wits and his quick thinking. And Kiyoshi did nothing wrong.
I mean,
He did one thing wrong. Okay.
I mean, okay, he did a lot. He did a lot.
That
of things
wasn't
wrong,
intentional,
frankly,
though. You know, the crow knocked him off the tree. So
I mean, okay. I mean, not even getting into everything that happened with him and Hana. He did a lot of things wrong, but I'll get to that in a bit.
Anyways, playing our main character Kiyoshi is Austin Tyndall, who you've heard as Ken Kaneki in Tokyo Ghoul, and also the main role in Is This a Zombie? Playing off another semi-perverted character.
Hardy, my man, you missed the perfect perverted character to use for Austin Tyndall.
Which is that?
He plays a character who is quite literally nicknamed the Pervert in Bento.
Ah, that's right.
Yosato.
Yes,
Yeah.
not even. I mean, not his
I
own.
still need to watch that.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
It is the
I
best
watched
thing.
it sub back in the day, but I never got around to the dub.
I can recommend that.
All right. So, Jet, why don't you start us off?
Okay. So, like Clifford Chapin, it's hard to think of a time where Austin Tyndall wasn't a household name. But compared to where Clifford was at this point in his career, Austin was definitely a lot more well-known by the time this stuff came out. Even if his biggest thing back then was still probably Guilty Crown. That being said, I definitely associate him more with, standard anime protagonists and comedy leads. But in a way that kind of helps to make this particular performance work. On the surface, Kiyoshi seems like, your very typical vanilla harem lead in that, he's very seemingly nice compared to the other boys. He seems to really value his friends. He doesn't see him as perverted. But in reality, Kiyoshi is kind of as terrible as the other four, if not more so. And Austin's performance definitely nails that to a T. As he flips between Kiyoshi, pretending to be very upright and righteous whenever things get very dramatic. And also him just being secretly motivated by nothing but boobs the entire time. Like, seriously. As much as, the relationship between him and Chiyo might seem very pure, keep in mind that it's only a thing because Kiyoshi's been lying behind his teeth the entire time about being into sumo, and he technically still is even now. And about the only reason why Kiyoshi isn't the actual worst of the five is that more than anything else, Kiyoshi is just really, really dumb, and Austin's performance definitely sells how much Kiyoshi is just getting by on the skin of his teeth in nearly every situation he's in, and it's definitely pretty hilarious to watch. Austin has so many great scenes throughout the show that it's kind of hard to pick any one moment he really excelled in. But the funniest bit with him is definitely the whole Mexican standoff between him and Hana towards the finale. And the way he over-dramatized Tillinger for his case was definitely one of the biggest highlights of the whole dub. And it's one of the primary reasons I will stand by that terrible ship. I don't care again, fight me. But again, well, that and a lot of the weirder stuff that goes between him and the back half of the manga. But again, Austin was definitely a lot of fun here, and even though he wasn't quite the standout of the cast, he definitely was an impression. And again, despite what the show might want you to think, Kiyoshi is definitely as bad as the other five. I'm done.
All right, Roots.
Yeah, so Austin Tyndall plays Kiyoshi as a very, very lovable scumbag. And I absolutely love the fact that the show does not go out of its way to tell you that Kiyoshi is a scumbag. You have to find that out by watching the entire first episode. It's wonderful. I would have to say my favorite scene is him facing off against the chairman when the chairman gives him the Sphinx's riddle about do you like breasts or butts and why? I love the sort of sweaty face panic that goes through him. And then just with such a serious, with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure levels of seriousness, goes through the explanation of why while lying through his teeth also, mind you, about why butts are better, because he saw the chairman's porn stash and knew the answer beforehand. But I just absolutely adore that scene. It's absolutely hilarious at just how over the top they get it. Also, his interactions.
Now, Roots. Was it a Sphinx's riddle or a sphincter riddle?
Get out.
Get out!
Okay.
Back in the cage.
My home.
But I also really love his interactions with Hana. I also love the fact that despite everything, he kind of earned the comeuppance he gets against the Underground Student Council. Just from all the work that had to be laid out for the plan. I love this performance. It's absolutely hilarious. While I think Gakuto is the most well put together performance of the show, Austin Tyndall's Kiyoshi is by far the funniest.
Okay, Jamal.
Yeah, much like Jen, I can't think of a time when Austin Tyndall wasn't the household name, but I like everybody. My introduction to him was as a accelerator in a certain magical index, and the accelerator was fucking nuts. Woo-wee! Boy, if we ever talk about him one day, I can tell you. But Austin he had to be the craziest out of all of them. I mean, he's probably the most sane out of the five, even though, he did come off as a scumbag at times, definitely. But I think he's most sane and probably one of the most competent because, he gets isolated from his boys in the first episode for, I guess, not getting them punishments or so, or because I know Andre was really obsessed with wanting to lick the vice president's boots. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track here, but Austin kind of has to handle these oh shit moments, and he does them very well. A couple of my favorites being, of course, the last arc in the last couple episodes, to which he had one of my favorite lines, "Don't wuss out, whip it out." Speaking of which, ironically enough, one of my other favorite moments was with him and Hana in the bathroom stall, and she's trying to watch him pee, to the point that he just pretty much exhales when she pulls down his pants. and it just kind of transitions into the vice president taking a drink from the fountain. I was like, oh my god.
Khrushchev effect.
If there's nothing else that this show is good at, it is framing.
Yeah, because I've only seen that in one other show he did recently, but we're not talking about that.
I'm like, oh yeah, we haven't talked about it, but the director for this show, one Seiji Mizushima, you might know him for doing a little indie project called Shirobako.
Woo! That explains a lot.
Yeah, that is...
I'm sorry you lost me at Shirobako. I'm like, well, Shirobako's not rated R, so...
No, it's not. I mean, it's just making that association. It's just amazing.
Yeah. But speaking of association, like his rapport, Austin's rapport with the other members of his crew, it's kind of like a dynamic that couldn't really be beaten. I think he bounced off the other actors very well. You could definitely tell he gave it his all and then some. But it kind of prevails in the end, and yeah, I kind of wish they did animate the other half of this manga, Jep, because I really want to know, like, where's it going to go after this, because after that ends, it's like, you don't see any more Kiyoshi. I really identify with Kiyoshi in some ways.
There's one scene in particular between him and the president that I really want to see animated. I showed you it in the Discord, but, it's just one of those things you have to see to believe.
This entire show is something you have to see to believe, but I'll get to that in final thoughts. For right now, I'm done with my thoughts on Kiyoshi, so...
All right. Noah, you're up.
Let's see. Something interesting to say about Austin Tyndall that hasn't already been said. Well, the thing about this kind of lead character, this sort of, vanilla lead, unoffensive male character...
It's more golden than vanilla, so...
Yes, it is. But, we're trying to keep this Christian here. This entire...
Motherfucker, have you seen this show?
No, I was just waiting for that reaction, actually. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the reaction I was looking for.
Oh, boy.
Austin's, arc throughout this whole thing or Kiyoshi's arc throughout this whole thing. Austin wasn't the actual character. There's a difference between actor and character, people. Kiyoshi's arc throughout this whole thing really seems to be just trying to make the most of the bad situation where, you've been thrown in prison, sure, but I got a crush on a girl. I got to go on a date with her. And that wouldn't come off quite right if Kiyoshi, his acting was over the top in all of his lines. He has to be played straight for the most part, but we do need little bits and pieces where he shows his more perverted or more spastic side, and we see that all throughout things. Like Chiyo shoves him into her boobs at one point, and he's like, "Whoa!" Or he makes the Beyonce reference, and those little bits really help to pepper up Austin's performance and makes it into something more than just your standard male lead character. I kind of almost want to think of I forget his name, but the lead character, the normal character in Cromartie High School, who has to deal with the insanity he's been thrown into. It's kind of like that, and overall, pretty good job from Austin. I am a little sorry that we didn't get more animation of this, because it sounds like the second half of the manga gives us even more comeuppance for the underground student council. So, I don't know. Again, maybe in 2030 we'll finally get that.
Yes.
That arc is interesting.
That arc is interesting. As fun as this stuff is, the following arc kind of blows all of this out of the water, if you can believe it.
Yeah, and did it feel like to you guys, in that very last episode, that even if that was what happened in the manga, that they were cutting it off with the intention of having a second season?
And I definitely felt that way. The 3 they showed are the antagonists for the remainder of the manga.
Yeah. When you introduce those characters, with Beastars, they actually showed new characters showing up, and you're like, okay, there will be a season 2. I assumed that was going to happen with Prison School. We just never got it.
Well, that's because the director doesn't do much anymore. I think he's like Sayo Yamamoto, where he just shows up every couple of years to make a show and then disappears.
Oh no, Seiji Mizutsumi does plenty of stuff. If anything, he does too much stuff. That's a problem.
I know, there's a lot of these. I honestly, okay, I'll be honest. I didn't think the lack of a sequel was due to like the lack of there being good material to anime. I honestly thought that maybe it just didn't pull the numbers it needed. Like, you saw stuff like High School of the Dead is another example where there's clearly more content there, but they just never animated more of it. And I never figured out
High School of the Dead also ran into the problem where the mangaka kind of unfortunately passed away.
Yeah, but not till years after the anime.
Fair.
Well, I mean, he also the world was kind of I think some catastrophe had happened. It may have been the tsunami, and he decided. I think the reason was that he decided the world didn't really need something as dark and despair as High School of the Dead at that time.
Really?
So
yeah,
that's from what I've heard.
Okay,
and so he put it off, and then later he sadly passed away.
It's plausible.
Right. Yeah, I think the anime did do pretty all right. I mean, it had the Death Note director on it, so I mean,
it did, and it was good enough to at least get an OVA, which was not bundled with the manga. So, yeah, there may be some credence to that theory, Hardy. Speaking of Hardy, thoughts on Kiyoshi?
Again, I've been brief this entire time, and I think you guys all nailed it on the head that this was one of Austin's titular roles before he became a household name. And I think he...
Yeah, we were all thinking it, so...
Yeah.
Whatever are you talking about?
But yeah, he does a really good job, makes Kiyoshi sound believable, and even though Kiyoshi's kind of a dick and kind of a scumbag in real life, I think he's probably the most relatable of all of us, because let's be honest, when are we not a little bit pervy sometimes?
Or look at your friends and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, inmates, are we ready to move on to final thoughts?
Let's do
sure.
it.
Sir, yes, sir.
All right. Bring it on, Jet.
Okay, just a second. Let me pull my notes back up. Okay, so as I said before, Prison School is a really, really stupid show that is also somehow a really compelling suspense thriller. And it somehow manages to draw a very delicate balance between the two. And the way it does is in its commitment to how overly dramatic it is about literally everything that happens in it, no matter how silly it is. And sadly, that's something I don't think quite totally translated into the dub. And I felt like the adapted script tried maybe a little too hard to add humor into a joke that already kind of worked pretty well on its own. And, at least for me, kind of missed the point a little bit. It's a kind of a shame because I think there are a lot of really strong and very funny performances here. And I certainly can't say I wasn't entertained by my rewatch, but I'm an even bigger fan of the initial joke. And seeing it kind of get lost in translation makes it hard for me to personally give this a full recommendation. Personally, if I were recommending the show to someone new, I would probably tell them to watch it in Japanese first because it gets the joke across a little better. And it's also so pretty funny on its own. But if you are interested in watching the show in English, this is definitely decent enough. And again, it is so very funny. I just kind of wish it got the material a little better. And yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, fair. Inmate Roots.
All right, so Prison School kind of has a special place in my heart. Were it, as the intro of the show kind of implied, this was my first episode of Dub Talk. I would literally not be here if not for Prison School. So, I owe a lot to this show. The show itself is a load of fun. All of these knuckle-headed boys get into a bunch of trouble. They are absolutely hilarious interacting with each other and the Underground Student Council. I would honestly recommend watching the simulcast version. Even if you watch the uncut version first, just because it actually feels like an entirely different experience with the censorship. As we've been saying throughout the course of the episode, the fan service is meant to make you feel uncomfortable. So having that censorship put into place, it actually kind of, like, it amplifies the discomfort. But in any case, I found the dub hilarious. Performances were, for the most part, really good, with some minor nitpicks. I don't think it deserves the level of ire it got when the dub was first airing for you know what. But yeah, I really love the show, and I actually really do like the dub.
All right. Inmate Jamal, your thoughts.
So, I'll be honest, I'm not really a fan of dark comedies, but when the material works, it actually kind of works. Prison School is one of those shows. It's not one of those shows where you kind of see someone get into a sticky situation. You're like, probably get out of this, alright. So it's not really that big a deal, though. This is one of those oh shit kind of situations where you don't know exactly what's gonna happen next. Matter of fact, some of the big moments I've seen, the big shocking moments, happened in the first 3 episodes. So that should gauge your response. If you are someone that is that does dark comedies, like something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of thing, or hell, even Seinfeld, I would suggest watching this. Not as much though, because I've watched this 3 times already, and when you get past some of the really tough stuff, the comedy kind of mellows everything out very well. The dub is very enjoyable. I mean, I will agree, it doesn't deserve the ire it got. I understand the context, but you could have picked better wording for that. Again, if you want to know, it's just type the 7th letter of the alphabet twice. So, but what I feel is strong with as best is with the dubcasting, because a lot of these players you don't really see them go outside the comfort zone this often. And that's one thing I like about the Funimation's dubs, because whereas in other dubs it's kind of chill, but it feels like it's missing something. Here in the Funimation dub, they know when to go the distance and know when to hold back, so you get probably the most maximum enjoyment out of any comedy dub you've ever seen, and I really respect them for that. Even if we don't always see eye to eye on things. So, I'm done.
Okay. Inmate Noah, your final thoughts.
Jet, I'm glad you mentioned Shirobaka, because I actually had some issues with that show. Not exactly the dub itself, but I didn't quite like that the show wasn't as...
What dub?
What?
Well, I was about to say, what dub?
Did I wake up in an alternate dimension?
Is there something you're not telling us, Noah?
Noah, am I going to have to hurt you?
No. Sorry, that's not what I was thinking of. Sorry. It's what time is it? It's late at night. I'm gonna restart this. Whoever's editing this, cut that part out, please. Save it for your personal file, but take it out. Let me restart that.
No, you don't get to take that back. You hurt me.
It'll come eventually. We've gotten dubs for things that didn't have it for a while. I mean, I waited years for the Hana dub. You can wait a little longer for the Shirobaka dub.
Just
anyways,
keep moving.
I meant to say Shimoneta. Sorry about that. Because I had issues with Shimoneta as far as it was trying to be almost commentative while also being skeevy and sexual at the same time. This show is just skeevy and sexual for the fun of it. If you're you've seen something like Elfen Lied before, you realize the fan service gets kind of so obtuse at some point that you don't even notice it after a while. That's kind of what this show's fan service is like. And the dub itself also just goes over the top in enough places that it's perfectly enjoyable with the kind of content. I think it takes some of the edge off of the more graphic scenes, because, I mean, I don't think we enjoyed watching the 5 main characters get beat all to hell. We didn't really enjoy watching a guy crap his pants, but we watched it because we wanted to know, God damn it, are they going to escape? Are they going to make it out of light? And are they going to make it to the wet t-shirt contest at the end of the show that never happened? That is what you're in it for. And for these actors to totally put their balls to the wall to make it happen for us in a simuldub, no less, not like something that had to be done on a much tighter schedule, is commendable. I think you could probably watch it maybe once just to say that you've seen it through, and if you watch it more than that, then I guess that there's something in there for you to enjoy. So that, and now we can finally, once we get through Hardy's thoughts, cross this one off of the lost episode list.
When this show first aired, the 3 original members, Stephanie, Megan, and myself, were tossing around the idea of whether to cover it or not. Because Stephanie was absolutely 100% against watching it. So basically she said, if you want to cover it, you're going to have to get a group together to do it. And I did. Later on, when Stephanie was trying to find out shows to watch, just for fun, I suggested Prison School. And at first she was hesitant. I think we actually had to make a wager that I would watch something that she picked out if she would watch Prison School.
Yep.
And I'm like, trust me, I think you'd like it a lot more than you're giving it credit for. And she's like, I don't know. And then she started to watch it. And at the end, she's like, holy crap, I think I actually like Prison School. Because one of the good things it does is it's a thriller. You don't realize that. There are moments to where it is actually heart pumping. Oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. What's going to go on? Holy crap, I need to know. Oh no, it's a cliffhanger. We have to wait till next week. Oh, what's going to happen?
It'll have you by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. You'll crap your pants like Gakudo if you're not careful.
It's not like I didn't mention at any point, but it probably is worth mentioning. Like, okay, like this is a 12-episode show, but they somehow cover what is essentially like somewhere around the realm of 70 to 80 chapters of the manga.
Jeez!
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That manga moves really slowly.
So yeah, Prison School is raunchy. It's gross. It's a little bit maybe on the sexist side, but it is a damn good thriller at heart. And any show that can combine those elements is worth watching. If you can sit through some of the grosser parts. And I think the dub really complements it well. There are some parts of the dub that don't really work. But as a whole, if you want to watch this show in English, I definitely would recommend it. If you need to watch it in the Japanese, either way, if you can sit through the fan service parts and the more scatological parts, you'll find at its core a very darn good thriller. And that's why I don't think Prison School gets enough praise as it is, because it is such a good thriller hidden in the facade of this gross out show. Anyways, that's all I have to say. So, with that in mind, inmates, get back in your cages. Come on, get back. Yeah. So, anyways, get at what did I say?
Yes, sir.
All right. First, before we go hit lights out, if you want to know where we are, Inmate Jet, how can people find you?
They can find me on the Twitters at Divine Nega, where I will usually be talking about anime or cartoons or something, I guess. You can also occasionally find me on my blog, Animation Infinity, where I will sometimes write things. I'm currently doing first impressions on all the spring season stuff. And you can also sometimes find me on another Podcast O&A, with Dub Talk co-host Andrew, where we will just usually shoot the breeze and talk about anime news.
All right. Inmate Roots, where are you found?
Yeah, so you can find me on the twitter.com at Roots of Justice, where I mainly just retweet cute animal pics, talk general fandom stuff. It's a good time. You should probably come over. Say hi. I'm working on writing, doing some reviews for Dark Crystal Age of Resistance and What We Do in the Shadows. I'm probably also going to try to start doing a little bit of seasonal anime reviews. I have a blog, and when I'm finally doing all that, I will post that to my Twitter. In the meantime, though, I am probably going to go to Buxton, Maine to find a rock that doesn't belong there, to take a can of money and go to various banks and extract money that was embezzled and go join my friend to build boats in Guanajuato, Mexico.
Right now, you ain't going nowhere because of this darn quarantine. But anyways.
Fair.
Yeah. Inmate Jamal.
You can find me on YouTube at Jabstar1, on Twitter Jabstar529. I'm assistant editor for the podcast. Blogs Collected Dust. I plan to start my own podcast soon. I may need some help with that. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, I'm experiencing my own prison school mentality and doing IT courses. And this month, because it's April 2020, I'm doing anime viewed as Highest Balls. And for some reason, half of the poll wants me to watch Pop Team Epic first.
And then watch it immediately afterwards.
Nah, it's one show a week, so it's Pop Team Epic. Yeah, I got some other shows out there stuff, including one Roots would definitely like. But that's pretty much what I'm up to nowadays. So.
Yeah. To get the full Pop Team Epic experience, you technically have to watch the show 3 times. Once with the English dub, once with Crunchyroll subs, and a 3rd time with High Dive subs. Okay, Inmate Noah, where can we find you at?
You can follow me on Twitter at NoahClue, where I like to post pictures of my children, because when you have cute kids, you get to post pictures of them. Like today, where Oliver decided to run around the yard when a freak snowstorm hit, because it's April in Michigan and we don't know what spring is. And you can also follow me on my YouTube channel, which is Journey Traveler, mostly covering stuff for animation, if I find the time to do that, because there is a wide world out there beyond the prison bars of the Japanese animation system that you should definitely check out.
You can find me on Twitter at Spaceman Hardy. I need to post more goat pictures. Basically, I retweet a lot of Final Fantasy art and do angry rants every once in a while about Aniplex and other BS in the anime community. I'm also a moderator both on Funimation's website and on their Discord. So if you want to come by either the forums or the Discord and shoot the shit, then just hit me up. Finally, before we leave, we need to thank our wonderful patrons. We, as you know, can be found at the main YouTube channel, which you're probably watching right now. You can follow us on Twitter at dubtalkpodcast. We have a Twitch account, which we occasionally will play Jackbox games and stuff like that on. We also have a Ko-fi account if you'd like to send us a donation, as well as a Patreon account if you'd like to send us a donation to help us keep doing this wonderful thing we do every week. And to read off our patrons, we have B. Morris, Michelle Travis, Miraculous Corazon, Carly Leistakow, Crimson Echidna, Jacob Wilson, J2 aka Jared, Julia W, Marissa Linty, Nico Robin, but with Yowie hands, and We Be. So special thanks to all those people. You are awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, inmates, back in your cells. It's time for lights out.
Yes, master.
finally.
Whatever you say, master.
Finally.
Oh,
right.
good God.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any complaining. All right.
Baby,
All
keep
right.
the lights on.
No,
It's a hard knock life for us.
Hey, botnet.
It's a hard knock.
and if
Right.
you guys excuse me, I
Aloha.
gotta get some munches and crunches.
It's a hard knock life for us. Instead of kisses, we get pissed.
We get kicked.
Yeah. And for all of us here at the Dub Talk Penitentiary, that's all, folks. Lights out.
Otaku on, my friends.
Good night, and otaku on that, Buzz.
Keep it painful.
ま精一杯それでも俺たちまあまあ素敵だろう青春は似たようエンドレス食われても倒れても大丈夫です